Is this Billy?
Joe?
This is Chris. My name is Chris. Joe's gone now, and I'm going to be talking to you now.
Listen, we'll turn ourselves in if you do what we tell you.
The scene unfolding yesterday was like one from a movie. A woman taken hostage in the middle of the day by a criminal claiming to be armed. In situations like this, hostage negotiators are charged with making split-second decisions that could mean life or death.
Negotiators are working around the clock to help secure her release.
A tense hostage crisis that is now entering its fourth night.
Tonight, the deadline for her execution has passed.
With us now to help break down the investigation, retired FBI Special Agent Hostage Negotiator Christopher
He is
Voss.
a former FBI lead international kidnapping negotiator.
He is very much informed on these matters. Chris, I wanted to go to you with things I heard in that press conference just moments ago.
Everything in life is negotiation. Life is a negotiation. There are human nature rules that apply to all people. It doesn't matter if you're a terrorist or a businessman. You're in negotiations all day long. If you want somebody to say yes to anything, you're in a negotiation. If somebody's trying to get you to say yes to something, you're in a negotiation. If you say, I want, or you think I need, you're in a negotiation. You're probably in 3 to 7 negotiations every single day. The stereotype of negotiation is that it's about being the biggest jerk in the room, that it's who's the loudest, who's the most aggressive, who takes the most at the other person's expense. The stereotype is that I win means you gotta lose, and I beat you. That is not the case. Great negotiation is about great collaboration. It's about several people faced with different aspects of the same problem. The adversary is not the person across the table. The adversary is a situation. The person across the table is a counterpart that's struggling with some aspect of the same problem that you are. You work with them and solve that problem together, and you're both better off. In my class, I'm gonna give you all of the strategies and tactics that I developed as one of the top hostage negotiators in the world. You're gonna learn everything from bargaining to reading body language and speech patterns to the neuroscience that can literally bend people's reality. Most importantly, you're going to learn how to achieve your goals through collaboration and the use of tactical empathy that creates trust-based influence. I'm Chris Voss, and this is my masterclass. Empathy is becoming completely aware of the other side's perspective, their point of view, their take on things, how they see it, and what they feel. It's not agreement in any way. It's not compassion. It's not sympathy. Let's tactically take what we know to be the case and apply it in our interactions. You know, there are human nature rules that apply to all people. It doesn't matter if you're a terrorist or a businessman. And if you can really get at what's driving someone, you can change their outlook and you can change their decision-making. You have to understand what their rules are. I have to understand what your rules are, and I have to respect those. I don't necessarily have to adopt those rules, but I've got to understand and respect what they are.
The clock is ticking in Iraq for kidnapped American journalist Jill Carroll. This morning, new video of Carroll was aired on Al Jazeera television. It showed Carroll surrounded by armed men. Her captors threatened to kill her tomorrow if their demands are not met.
The Jill Carroll case really helped me understand the psychology of what's at stake in a negotiation. You know, what are they really bargaining for? What are they really after? Who are they really trying to talk to? Jill Carroll is a journalist working in Iraq shortly after the end of, quote, the end of the Second Iraq War. So she's on her way to interview an official, and she's kidnapped. And she was taken by what appeared to be Al-Qaeda. And Al-Qaeda at the time was in the business of kidnapping people, putting videotapes of them on the internet, threatening their lives, and then shortly thereafter cutting off their heads. So this happens. She disappears, and shortly thereafter they put a video of her. They have 3 people standing around her, 3 men. They're masked. 2 of them are holding rifles. One of them is holding what appears to be a book. She's seated on the floor in front of them, and her hair's uncovered. So they had orchestrated a video of her that made her look like she'd been judged by an appropriate authority, and therefore was acceptable to execute her for her crimes, for her sins. What is the commodity at stake? What are they really negotiating for? They're trying to show themselves as a legitimate authority that can pass sentence on people and execute them like any other legitimate authority. That's what that video was about. So we needed to approach it from that level. And what were their rules that they violated? You know, I can live by your rules, can you? Well, let's see if we can turn your rules against you. And so what we noted in the video was that they had complete control of her, and they videotaped her with her hair uncovered, which was a violation of their rules. So we began to, through third parties, point out to them, through various media outlets, that they were breaking their rules, that they disrespected her. And then we did a videotape with her father.
I want to speak directly to the man holding my daughter Jill. Her life as a reporter will better serve your purpose than her death.
We coached her father. He had the option to take our coaching or not. And we said, what we need to do is we need to tell the indisputable truth. We need you to go on camera. We need you to not engage in any predictable dialogue. They've already said in advance that you're going to go in the media and you're going to say she's innocent, leave her alone. These are trigger words that they have predicted that you will say in advance. And as soon as you say that your daughter was innocent, regardless of whether or not it's true, you feed into their justification for killing her. He went in the media and said, my daughter Jill is not your enemy. She was reporting on what was happening in Iraq, and if released, would go back to reporting on what is happening in Iraq. Things that are indisputably true. We know from their culture that they believe that honor flows from the father. We didn't know it at the time, but we found out after she was released that the terrorists saw her father in the media and said to her, your father is an honorable man. Now, not knowing at the time, but at that point in time, we'd won the negotiation. It was over. She was safe. When they say to her, your father's an honorable man, they now can't hurt her because honor flows from the father. And their view of her has completely changed. And lo and behold, the very next video we saw of her, she was by herself on camera. There were no executioners standing around her, and her hair was covered. And about 88 days, I believe, or so after the day that she was taken, she appeared on the streets of Baghdad, very close to the location that she'd originally been grabbed, because they didn't know what to do with her. You know, they'd lost the negotiation. They sensed that they had. They didn't know who to blame. You know, it had taken place in the media. It had taken place in the arena that they chose. And we understood what was going on, and ultimately they just let her go. We didn't have the term emotional intelligence back then, but it was emotional intelligence, and it was a tactical application of emotional intelligence. And so I knew that that was the key to unraveling these situations. Emotional intelligence, or what I call tactical empathy, is the bedrock of my negotiation approach and comes from years of dealing with hostage crises. Most of the tools you're about to learn are rooted in the idea of demonstrating understanding of the other side's position, and in so doing, building rapport and ultimately gaining trust. All right, so the common misconception about negotiation is that you have to make your case. You have to make your argument. You need to come prepared with the reasons why the other side should make the deal, your value proposition, if you will, and you need to lay all that out. That is not the case. You need to find out what's possible, and you need to engage the other side in what their thoughts are so that they feel involved in a process, and consequently, they want the deal to happen. So what I'm going to teach you with mirrors, and a section on mirroring, is how to use mirrors to get the other side engaged, to get them to feel like they're involved, and also to tease out the information that you might not have had otherwise, the pieces of information that are going to make all the difference in the world. And one of the things about negotiation is the art of letting the other side have your way. So mirroring gets them talking and creates the opportunity for them actually to present you with your deal, only they thought it was their idea. So mirroring is critical in information gathering and in the art of letting the other side have your way. Mirroring, the hostage negotiator's mirroring. It's just a simple repetition of 1 to 3 words, 1 to 3-ish words. Typically, it's the last 1 to 3 words of what somebody said. But when you get good at mirroring, you could pick 1 to 3 words from anywhere in the conversation. The other person feels listened to. It tends to connect their thoughts in their head. Part of the message it sends to the other person is, I heard every word you said, word for word, and I'm proving it because I just repeated it back to you, but it's not enough. I still don't get it. And when people go on with a further explanation, they're gonna add more words, they're gonna change their terms. One of the things that's in the book, Never Split the Difference, was one time when my son mirrored me. We were getting ready for some training. And I asked him if the notebooks were ready. Now he sensed from the way I was asking it that the picture in his head of what a notebook was and a picture in my head of a notebook were 2 different things. And he said to me, "What do you mean by notebooks?" And all I did was say, "Notebooks!" Louder. Same words exactly, only louder. And which is what people often do because they think the words that they've selected are perfect. So how could you not understand? You just, I wasn't loud enough. And he asked me a couple times, "What do you mean by notebooks?" And I just said, "Notebooks!" And finally he looked at me and he said, "Notebooks?" And I said, "Yeah, 3-ring binders." He's like, because he had a completely different picture in his head. And to this day, he will stand up and hold up a folder and say, "This is a notebook and this is a 3-ring binder," and they're not the same thing. But that's what happens. People go on, people elaborate, people use different words. It's ridiculously simple. It's so absurdly simple that a lot of people think it'd never work until they start using it and they find it's fantastic. The other side loves it when you're paying attention. They love it when you gently know that what they have said is inadequate, but they're not being accused of being inadequate, and people go on. It's a remarkable skill. Mirroring is also a rapport-building relationship process. People love to be mirrored. They love to be encouraged to go on. There's an old saying, interesting people are interested. If you mirror, you will be ridiculously interesting to other people because you're interested in them, and they're gonna love talking to you. I've been at social gatherings where there were 1 or 2 people there that had studied our techniques that walked around and mirrored people the entire time. We were at a weekend yoga retreat of all places once, and there was an individual there. He drove his wife crazy because the only thing he ever did with anybody was mirror them. And so he spent an entire weekend mirroring everybody that spoke to him, and he told his wife in advance that that was all he was gonna do. And all the women at the yoga retreat kept coming up to his wife saying, "Your husband is the most interesting guy we ever met. Oh my God, we love talking to him. Please always bring him with you when you come along." And he's just walking around with this big, silly smile on his face because all he did was mirror everybody. And they loved him. A great example of what this gentleman would often do was someone would say, "I'm really enjoying being here at this yoga retreat." And he'd say, "At this yoga retreat?" And they say, "Yeah, this is a great place. I'm getting a lot of time to really think. I'm eating really healthy." And he'd say, "You're eating really healthy?" They go, "Yeah, the food here is fantastic. You go up there, they've got everything laid out for you. They've thought of everything in advance. It's all organic. And they've really taken a lot of care with the food." And he'd say, "A lot of care with the food?" "Yeah, they're really careful with the food here. And that's all it is. I mean, if you're genuinely curious about the other person, you're interested. You're looking forward to hearing what they have to say. You want to learn from them. You're positive about it. You're not judgmental. You're interested. And genuine curiosity is a great trigger to get people to keep talking. And a mirror that finishes with a tone of voice of genuine curiosity is compelling. It's powerful. People are drawn to it. They want to say more. If someone was coming at me in a very confrontational manner, let's say in a business setting, they're going to have a problem with my price. And so they might say, your price is too high. And I would say, our price is too high? Yeah, well, we can't pay that. We've got a limited budget. And I might say, you got a limited budget? Yeah, well, we've got other things that we have to worry about. There's a lot of things that we're trying to accomplish here. Other things you're trying to accomplish? And they're going to go on and they're going to elaborate and they're going to give me context. And they're going to feel like I'm working with them. They're not going to feel me fighting. It takes two to fight. I'm going to change this wrestling match into a dance. And if I refuse to engage in the wrestling, but I still want to engage, then that changes into a collaboration almost immediately. The next time someone's being confrontational with you, try a mirror. Use a great tone of voice, genuine curiosity, mirror them a few times, and see if they don't change their tone. So the recipe for mirroring, first of all, is just, the last 1 to 3 words of what someone just said. But then the critical issue afterwards is to shut up, effective pause or dynamic silence. A lot of people have trouble going silent because a lot of people signal anger with silence. So they're afraid that their silence will be misinterpreted as anger. But it's critical to display that you're interested, that you go silent, especially after a mirror, especially after the use of a great skill. You want to go silent afterwards. Let the other person think. Let your skill sink into their head. Let it have its intended effect. And go silent, which also lets the person know that you really want to hear and you're going to shut up until they do. If these tools make you feel awkward or they feel counterintuitive, or you say to yourself, that's not going to work, awesome. What that means is you're learning. You're creating a new skill. That whatever you're doing now, you can add to it and you can do it even better. Awkwardness is an indicator of learning. All right, to give you an example of what this feels like, I ask you to make a fist with both hands. Put your right thumb up, put your left forefinger out. That might have taken you a second. Now switch. Switch back. Do it again. Speed it up. Quicker. Probably, if I'd asked you to do that while you were standing up, you might have fallen over. But what was that feeling when I asked you to do it? It was awkwardness. So as you're practicing the tools I'm going to teach you, it's going to feel awkward. You're going to feel like you're going to quit. You're going to give up. You're going to try to mirror somebody at the water cooler, and you're going to feel like they're going to scream at you for mirroring them. Just get your repetitions in. Try it in low-stakes practice. Try it with a Starbucks clerk. Try it with a hotel clerk. Try it with people that you're willing to give yourself a chance to learn with because you don't have that much at stake. Get your 3 weeks of practice in. Get your 63 to 64 repetitions in. And it'll come naturally to you, and you'll get past the awkwardness. The amygdala is this little organ in the middle of your head, and it is the nerve center of all the emotions. There were neuroscience experiments that were done where they put people in fMRIs, functional magnetic resonance imaging equipment, so they could watch the electrical activity in people's brains. Then they induced the negative emotion by showing a photo to them. The photo might make them feel sad, angry, lonely, hurt, upset. They knew the photo would trigger some sort of a negative emotion. They showed the people the photo, and they simply said, "What are you feeling?" They told them to identify it or label it. And every time that the person self-labeled, they saw the electrical activity in the negative part of the amygdala decrease. Every time. Now, we first started on labels. In a hostage negotiation, we called them emotion labels, and we use it as a very self-defining skill. You labeled emotions. You heard an emotion, you put a label on it. Somebody sounded angry, you said, "You sound angry." And if that negative emotion is there, that label will reduce that negative emotion. So in this section, I'm going to teach you about labels. Labels are just verbal observations. When I first came out of hostage negotiation into business negotiation, I actually thought this was the least important skill on our list. Having been involved in business negotiation for quite a while and coached a lot of people, we found out that labels might be the most important skill, the most innocuous skill, and the most MacGyver skill, the most useful tool with the most different applications to unwind and solve some of the trickiest problems. Don't be fooled by their simplicity. Their simplicity gives them elegance. You'll enjoy learning labels. All right, the steps to labeling. The first step is you simply being aware of the emotion or the dynamic from the other side. Now, this is a lot easier than it sounds because you've got a great gut instinct. Becoming aware of what your gut instinct is picking up is the first step. Then the second step after that is to simply label it. That starts out with, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, it feels like. Those are the first few words of a label. And then just fill in the blank. If your gut instinct is to say, look, I don't want you to be upset about this, your gut instinct is picking up that they are upset or they will be upset. So take it and make it a label. Seems like you're upset about this. What happens in your brain is you say to yourself, am I upset? It triggers that contemplation. And the mere act of triggering that contemplation deactivates the negative. So my labels are going to do several things simultaneously. They're going to build the relationship, and they're going to help me gather information. And since both of those things are happening, then my influence with you is going to increase. And the great thing about this type of influence, this approach to influence, this is what I call trust-based influence. It's the lowest maintenance, most durable type of influence there is. A wrong way to label something involves the phrase, what I'm hearing. Now, a lot of people have been taught to say, well, what I'm hearing is, by starting out with what I'm hearing is, I've dropped the word I in inappropriately. And the message that I'm conveying is that I'm more interested in my perspective than yours. It's also important that you resist the urge to explain a label or to add some follow-up or to talk in any way, actually, after a good label. A good label, you gotta let it sink in. You gotta let it have its effect. You gotta let it trigger the type of contemplation, the type of thinking that you wanna have triggered in the other side. You gotta let it fully deactivate the negatives. So after you've made a great label, you gotta shut up. You gotta shut the front door. You gotta stop talking. Even if you got another good label, let the first one hit hard and sink in before you follow up with the second label or before you ask a great question. Let your labels sink in. Don't explain them. Don't step on them. a lot of circumstances, it's probably going to take more than one label of a negative to completely diffuse or deactivate the negative. Labels are cumulative. I will coach you that labeling negatives diffuses, diminishes them every time. The important part of that is to remember, although I said what kind of effect it would have, I didn't tell you the degree of impact. I didn't tell you how much it would deactivate or diffuse the negative. Sometimes it's a little, sometimes it's a lot. So you may label a negative emotion, and the other side, you perceive that they don't react. If you label a negative and you get this response, it's not that the label didn't work, it's actually that you're on the right track, you just need more. So a lack of response to a negative label is a good sign that you're on the right track. Just keep going. Label it some more. You might even say as a follow-up, sounds like I haven't gone far enough. Sounds like there's more there than meets the eye. Sounds like there's some feelings you have about this that I haven't quite touched yet. Those would all be appropriate observations to a response of, to your label. It's just adding it up. What I've hoped I've established with you is that labeling a negative deactivates a negative. But now I want to talk with you about what happens when you label a positive. It's the opposite. Labeling a positive reinforces it. You may be in conversation with a customer service person for an airline, and they're short-tempered, they've been beaten up all day, and you didn't call them to congratulate them on doing a good job anyway, or that you don't call customer service to congratulate them on what a great job the airline's doing. They know that. They know you're mad in advance. Now, here's the crazy part. Their impatience, their empathy, their perspective on this is that if you're lucky to be talking to them at all, they're actually being generous with their time. That's their bizarro worldview. Again, empathy is not the truth, it's not the reality, it's the other side's point of view. So a great positive to reinforce here is to say to them, I appreciate you being generous with your time. It feels like you're being really generous with me right now. I've in fact used that with airline customer service personnel who talked to me as if I was lucky to have them on the phone at all, put me on hold for a long period of time. When the woman came back on the phone, I said, look, it really feels like you're being generous with your time. And her tone changed instantly. And she actually talked to me for a few more moments, put me on hold, and went back and fixed the problem with no charge, which was exactly what I was after. I wanted more generosity from her. And so since it was there, I knew it was buried underlying the emotions that were on the surface. I just used a positive label to reinforce it and build it back up. Mirrors are a great way to dial yourself in on labels. I remember in my early days of teaching hostage negotiation, we were teaching some of the FBI agents that were on the hostage rescue team, the super SWATers. And there was one of the guys on the HRT in particular that I saw him in a negotiation scenario. He would mirror and mirror and mirror and then come up with a great label. So the combination of mirrors leading into labels will really help you if you're having trouble getting a grasp on exactly what the dynamic or the emotion that the other side is feeling. Your mirrors will do a great job in teasing that out. Now, the flip side is, after a great label, they may have given you a lot of information. There may be a part of that that you want to expand on. So whatever their response is to the label, you can mirror one or two or three words out of that response and get a lot more information afterwards. So here's how that might play out if you were going to mirror following a label. I might say to you, sounds like this deal's making you upset. And you'll say, well, it's not making me upset. You know, what it really is we got some real implementation problems here on the other side because we've had trouble with this in the past. I'll simply say, trouble in the past? And you'll say, yeah, well, you know, it happened to us with another company. It was actually the vendor we had before you guys came in, and they gave us a lot of problems, but we're really worried that you guys are doing the same thing. And we realize that you're different, but, you know, we're not sure yet because we're still early in the relationship. And then I might say, early in the relationship? But any one of those selected mirrors is going to tease a lot of information out about exactly what I'm after. And it also helps you think it out loud. So that if there are contradictions in your thinking, you're much more likely to see them once you've articulated them than when they're banging around inside your head. So this is a really exciting thing for me to do. I've never done this before, but I'm going to bring you in to show you how I negotiate in real time. With Pam joined me as my counterpart. Pam is a very talented actor who's going to join me in the mock negotiations and scenarios. So in a minute, I'm going to get you to talk about something you're passionate about. It doesn't matter what you're passionate about. It could be New Jersey, it could be cooking, it could be travel, it could be selling mortgages, but it's something that resonates with you.
Okay.
Now, when we get started, all I'm going to do is the two skills I'm just going to use. First is just going to be a label, which is it sounds like, it seems like, or you sound or you seem. It's just a verbal observation. And the other is going to be a mirror. Mirror is kind of a crazy technique. I'm going to repeat the last three words of what you just said.
Okay.
And when I do that, if you feel like talking some more, then talk some more. If you don't, then don't.
Okay.
But whatever I say, just react how it makes you feel. So, have you thought of something you're passionate about?
Uh-huh.
What are you passionate about?
Escape room games.
What is it about escape room games that makes you passionate?
They are so fun to do with friends, and they're immersive. It's like such an immersive experience, and it challenges your mind.
It challenges your mind?
Yeah. Because when you go in, you know, if you know what an escape room is, you have 60 minutes to get out, right? And so, you know, there's a series of different puzzles that you have to solve in order to get out.
Sounds like you like mental challenges.
Yeah, I do. I do when it comes to that you know, that it's like puzzles and fun, and then you're kind of cooperating and doing them together. And you're also in this like immersive experience. So it's like as if you're in the mystery movie, or if you're in the, you know, the play, you're like part of the play.
Sounds like you like drama.
Maybe I do like drama. I guess I like the suspense of it. I guess maybe I do like drama.
But it also sounds like you really like people.
I do. I like to spend time with my friends, and I like working together with them in escape rooms. And the other thing that's kind of interesting about them is that if you have someone who's never done one before, and then they come with your group, you're like, this is going to be so fun for you. And you try to make it the best experience for that person so that they enjoy them too.
Sounds like you really like to help people.
I guess so. I never really thought about it like that, but I guess I do. Like to help.
Sounds like...
Not like I'm a terrible person who's so selfish, but...
You sound like a really loyal person, too.
Aw. That's nice to say. I think people say... My friends do say that about me, too. That, that I'm loyal, I guess. But I'm lucky in that the people that I'm friends with are nice people and good people. And I feel like my friends, like I would do anything for them, but they would also do anything for me.
You sound drawn to good people.
Yeah. I hope so. And hopefully good people are drawn to me too.
So it sounds like you just really enjoy bringing out the best in others.
I like to think, yeah, that is fun.
All right, so we just engaged in a practice session.
Right.
Where you knew that I was using negotiation skills.
Right.
And knowing that, how did it feel?
Well, I felt like I was like, oh, kind of, as you were asking me something, I would be like, oh, I guess I've never thought of it like that. Oh, maybe that is what that means. So I was kind of discovering things, I guess, about myself. But I felt like it made me think that you were like listening to me and being like intuitive about what I was saying.
Right.
Yeah.
So how much do you know about my love of escape room games?
Nothing.
Or how I feel about people?
Yeah, nothing.
Or whether or not I have family?
Yeah.
Or whether or not I've ever done anything like it. So I shared with you no common ground whatsoever.
Right.
And you talked about everything anyway.
Right.
So it felt comfortable for you.
Yeah, it did feel comfortable for me.
So as of right now, I know that you like intellectual mental stimulation, you like challenges, you like people, you like collaborating with people. My guess is you've got some real strong feelings about how people should collaborate and that they should help each other.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I took a shot at this loyal thing. Because I start to add all this up. Like if I want you, now I know whether or not I want you for a friend, and you got all these great qualities.
Right.
You'd be an awesome friend. I'd probably call you and I'd say, hi, I'm in jail. And you'd come with bail money.
Yeah, I know.
So in that period of time, I learned an awful lot about whether or not I want to be friends with you and whether or not I want to work with you.
Yeah.
And I never asked you one question other than, what are you passionate about? What makes you passionate?
That's true. You weren't asking me questions. You were just making statements.
Right. Then ask you a single question.
Right.
Once we get started. And look at how much I learned without asking you a question.
Yeah.
And if you saw me in a coffee shop someplace, what do you think your reaction would be to whether or not you wanted to talk to me again?
If I saw you in a coffee shop?
Yeah, if you saw me a couple days from now, yeah.
And I would say hi.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Can I say hi to you when I see you in the coffee shop?
Exactly. So why is how you say something so important to a negotiation? Well, the reality is your inner voice betrays your outer voice. I might say to you, that was a good question. And my voice says that I thought your question was stupid. Or I could say, it was a good question. Or even with, how am I supposed to do that? I could say, how am I supposed to do that? My tone of voice is saying, you idiot. But I can say, how am I supposed to do that? My tone of voice is saying, look, I'm trying. I want to help. I just can't do that. I'm not fighting you. I'll do whatever I can do. I can't do that. Your voice, your deliveries speaks volumes. It conveys deference. Everybody loves deference. It conveys genuine curiosity. It conveys collaboration. I mean, your voice alone can be such an art. When I was teaching hostage negotiation, I knew a hostage negotiator might not even say the right things. If they had a great voice, we were probably going to be all right. Flip side, they could have all the techniques down. If they sounded like a robot, they were going to be horrible. You can say the perfect words, and if you say them like you think the other person's stupid or a robot, and your tone of voice is going to destroy your word selection. If you can see me or if you can hear me, I can hit the mirror neurons in your brain. So if I'm angry, I'm going to hit your mirror neurons. You're going to get angry too. It's an involuntary response. If I'm talking with you and I use the late night FM DJ voice, I've hit your mirror neurons and I've slowed your brain down. That was a default voice for hostage negotiators. We were taught to use a late night FM DJ voice with every bank robber or kidnapper or terrorist. We knew it calmed them down. We didn't know why. We didn't care. We knew that was a law of gravity. It calmed the other side down. It tamped down their emotions. So if I need you to calm down, I can't say calm down. It's an order. You're going to hate that. But I hit you with a late night FM DJ voice. I might even smile while I'm at it. Smile when you talk to people. Trigger their mirror neurons in a positive way. Make them smarter. Make yourself smart at the same time. Don't allow yourself to be held hostage over whether or not they like you, and you'll increase your ability to make deals by hitting their mirror neurons, calming them down, soothing them, and then making them feel like you're worthy of collaboration simply by smiling at them. All right, so there's basically 3 different tones of voice combined with 2 inflections. The fight guy, the assertive, that's my natural born type. You know, we think of ourselves as direct and honest. You know, we're blunt. Let's say, for example, that my price for a given product was $35,000. And I'd say, the price for our product is $35,000. That's the assertive tone of voice. I mean, I'm just saying to you, I'm being direct and honest. You're feeling like you're getting punched in the nose. The assertive tone of voice is always counterproductive. In the real world, I have seen that anger always leaves a negative residue. Always. And anger is always bad for long-term relationships. And that's the reason that we tell people who are natural-born assertives, you got to fix that voice, because it's always counterproductive. All right, so the accommodator's voice, the playful voice. Same thing, I'll give you my price. And I'll say, my price is $35,000. You know, I'm saying it like, yeah, I know this is crazy. It feels like a lot. But I want to work with you on this. I don't want you to feel backed into a corner. I want to say it to you in a way that it keeps the relationship. I'm letting you know that I got to tell you the truth, but I'm worried about making sure it lands softly. This is an example of what someone we might refer to as a straight shooter. Everybody loves somebody that'll tell them the truth as long as that person is worried about how it lands. The playful voice, the accommodator's voice, that should be the voice that you use about 80% of the time. And you want to keep people in a positive frame of mind. Keep people thinking, keep them collaborating with you, keep them working with you. The smiling voice is tremendously effective, and it should really be your default voice. It will serve you well. Use it the vast majority of the time. So the analyst voice, you know, that's the downward inflecting voice. You know, it's declarative, but with a downward, slow, soothing tone. That's a great voice when you have to throw something out that's immovable. You have a term in a contract that you just are not going to move on. We're not accepting a change in this clause. That makes the other side feel it's immovable. Now, your actions should back up your words, so if you're going to use that tone of voice, it better be immovable, because your honesty, your integrity should be your calling card, needs to be your calling card. Use the downward inflecting analyst voice rarely, because it's going to slow the conversation down, and the other side's going to feel left cold by it, which is not good for your relationships. So you don't want the other side feeling cold, because if that's all they have to look forward to in a relationship, in the implementation of the deal, they're not going to be enthusiastic about interacting with you, and they're certainly not going to be enthusiastic about any changes in the deal that might come up. So use it rarely, but use it when you need it. You know, the subtle difference between the analyst voice and the late night FM DJ voice is the analyst voice really lacks warmth. And you don't want your downward inflecting late night FM DJ voice to lack warmth because it doesn't play to your advantage. It doesn't help the relationship, and if it doesn't help the relationship, it doesn't help you. The FM DJ voice should really just be used, maybe 10, 15, maybe 20% of the time, no more than that. The FM DJ voice is situational. When the other side's upset, the quickest way to calm the situation down is with a late night FM DJ voice. If you're in an interaction where the other side sort of by definition is anxious all the time, this is typical of many real estate transactions. If you're in a business where it's completely commission driven, a lot of people in commission driven businesses are anxious a lot. And a late night FM DJ voice is very effective with them because the anxiety is counterproductive and you need to tamp it down as quickly as you can. Now, the inflection is where you start to really add the mastery onto these, and your inflection is declarative, as if you're declaring a fact, or it's inquisitive, as if you're asking a question. And I might call you and say, "Hi, it's Chris Voss from the Black Swan Group." That's declarative, that's stating a fact. That may or may not hit your ears well. If I call you and I say, "Hi, it's Chris Voss from the Black Swan Group," what you're gonna feel is deference. You're gonna feel caution. It's very much like when we were kids. You call your buddy on the phone and you get his mom on the phone and you say, "Hi, Mrs. Smith, it's Chris. Chris, can Billy come out and play?" It's the same deferential way that we used to call up our buddy's house when we were kids, and we got one of their parents on the phone. The inquisitive tone of voice really helps words land really well. You'd be shocked at what you can get away saying if you say it with the inquisitive tone, the tone of voice that's genuinely curious at the end. Ideally, your communication will be a combination of all the means. You'll text some, you'll email some, you'll talk on the phone, you'll go face to face. Nobody has time to do everything in person. You're trying to be more effective. So you can use all the means of communication, just don't over-rely on any one of them. Don't make any of them too long, and always end positively. Where people run into trouble is they try to put too much in one communication. A great example is, would you play chess via email? Would you put your next 7 chess moves in the same email? No, because the other side would see all the moves and then decide not to go along. So if you just shorten things down in your digital communications and make one good move in each communication, you'll be highly efficient and you'll get answers. Your email's got to be concise, and you have to remember the tone in your email is probably going to be read negatively. So you need to put extra things in to soften it. Say things like, "I'm sorry," and "I'm afraid." Make sure your words land softly and end positively. Here's a case study from my first real hostage negotiation, where I learned a lot about honing my skills as a negotiator.
Well, David, at about 8:30 this morning, 4 people, at least 2 believed to be armed, attempted to hold up the Chase Manhattan branch in the Park Slope section of Brooklyn. This is a nice section of New York City, by the way.
I'm in New York City one morning, getting ready to do an interview. One of my hostage negotiation compadres, one of my colleagues, comes up to my desk and says, "There's a bank robbery with hostages in Brooklyn. Let's go." We pull the car up. We're right on top of the inner perimeter. We bail out of the car, low crawl over to the bank across the street that's got the command post in it. Everyone has been seduced at the very beginning to assume that this is going to be a short, sweet operation.
Apparently, they tried to enter the bank as 3 employees were getting ready to open the branch. That resulted in the bank alarm going off and the hostage drama began. Hundreds of police officers from the 78th Precinct arrived at the scene, cordoning off about 4 city blocks. No one's been moving in or out of this area except for the police since 8:30 this morning, which is about 5.5 hours now. A police tactical squad is on the scene, as well as a police chopper. The FBI and the NYPD have established contact with the alleged robbers. The 3 bank employees are okay as far as we know. Police are looking for a peaceful resolution to this hostage drama unfolding right now. Reporting live in New York.
We've got the actual recordings from the Chase Manhattan Bank robbery hostage taking. We're going to go through when I came onto the phone. I was the second negotiator on the phone. I'd been given some guidance, some guidelines to follow, and I was ready with my process. I was ready with the process, and this is what happened.
Where's Joe?
Joe's gone.
Where's he going?
This is Chris. My name is Chris.
Hi.
Joe's gone now, and I'm going to be talking to you now. We want to get back to talking about resolving this thing.
Yeah, we're sitting down and trying to resolve.
You're sitting down and talking about it inside? Who's talking about it?
Everybody.
Okay.
I gotta put you on hold. I'll come back.
So, what I've just started with is I'm already using a version of the late night FM DJ voice. I'm making it a point to downward inflect with everything that I say. The other thing I've just done is I've created my identity. All I did was said, this is Chris. You're going to be talking to me now. Joe's gone. Now, our control-oriented negotiator on the other side, his voice has just come up a little bit. He's a little rattled, and he doesn't know exactly what to do with it.
Hello, this is Chris. Who's this?
Okay.
Hi, who's this? Tell me your name, please.
I am okay.
You're okay?
Now, what he's done is this is the first time that we've heard from a hostage the entire day. Now, he's not out of moves yet. This is a control-oriented negotiator himself. He's gone and gotten one of the hostages. He's going to put her on the phone just long enough to confirm that she's alive without actually raising the threat level.
Hello, this is Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Hi, is this Billy? All right, Billy, listen, it's very difficult for me to speak to you when you keep putting me on hold like that. We need to keep talking to each other so that we can resolve this and we can get everybody out safely. Okay?
The other guys are talking and they're trying to resolve something.
Okay, I need to know what you're thinking about in
I
there.
can't tell you because nobody's talking yet.
Okay, how is everyone in there?
Everyone's fine.
Everybody's doing fine?
Everyone.
You put one of the ladies on the phone a little bit ago. What was that for? One of the ladies got on the phone a little bit ago and said that she was okay.
Okay.
Okay? Okay, we agree that we're going to get everybody out safely.
Okay, listen.
All right, now you and I are going to work on that together, and we're going to work this out. We're going to bring everybody out safely. All right, Billy?
Okay, let me talk to them and I come back to you.
No, don't put me on hold now, Billy.
So now at this point, again, notice I'm not really trying to hammer him a lot with his name. As a matter of fact, Billy's not his name. He wouldn't give us a name. That's just a name we came up with earlier to try to personalize him to us and vice versa. And what we've got at this point in time, we've narrowed down that the van outside is probably his. We've gone to his neighborhood. We found somebody that knew him. We brought him to the scene, listened to him talk on the phone, and said, is this the same guy that you know to own this van? So we got a voice identification on him. We already know who's inside. What I want to do is brace him with this in a way that doesn't cause a volatile reaction, because he's still got hostages inside. As far as we know, he's still got guns inside. We don't know for sure what's going on yet.
This is Chris again. Hey, listen, I got a couple of questions I need to ask you. We've got a van out here, a blue and gray van. We've been able to get a handle on the owners of all the vehicles out here, except this one in particular. Do you know anything about it?
Well, the vehicle's not out there because you guys chased my driver away.
We chased your driver away?
Well, when he seen the police, he cut.
Okay, well, we don't know anything about this guy. Is he the one that was driving the van?
Who?
Your driver. You said we chased your driver away. Was he driving the van?
No, my driver was in front of the van, in front of the bank.
Okay, but is this your van out here, the blue and gray van?
We don't have one vehicle.
You have more than one vehicle?
We only have one vehicle.
Now, he is all over the place right now. I am being completely surprised by most of the things that he's saying at this point in time. And the majority of what I'm doing is mirroring, which again, this is how it's so useful to you if you've got this as a skill in your repertoire, because you can be caught off guard by what the other person is saying, and you just start repeating what they're saying, mirroring it, and they keep talking. Now, this is a control freak negotiator. He's been completely control-oriented from the very beginning, and he catches himself babbling all over the place, and these are the critical issues that ended up getting the getaway driver identified, arrested, and convicted, because he's blurting this stuff out uncontrollably because the mirroring is bringing it out in him.
Listen, I've got a name that this van is registered to. It's registered to a Chris Watts.
Okay.
Is he there? Is this you?
No.
Is he in there with you?
I don't. He's not one of us.
Okay, you said okay. You know who Chris Watts is. You want to tell me about him?
What are you talking about?
Well, Chris Watts, the owner of this van, is he with you? Do you know him?
I did something really good and then something really stupid right after it. I said it's registered to a Chris Watts, and he says, okay. That was just a statement. That was just an observation. In sum and substance, he has almost completely admitted to who he is at this point in time. And I had him on the ropes, and if I had just said to him, I know this is you, with a downward inflecting voice, I think the chances are very good that he would admit it.
Hello, this is Chris. Who am I speaking to, please? I'm having trouble hearing you. Can you speak up a little bit, please?
Let you talk to somebody, okay, all right?
Now, we got a brand new bad guy on the phone. Our first bank robber is rattled just enough, and as a control freak guy, he hasn't erupted in anger, but he's smart enough to know that he's out of control, and to this day, I don't know exactly why they handed the phone off, but he has handed the phone off to his only other colleague on the inside, his cohort, his fellow bad guy. And his fellow bank robber, who actually didn't expect to be robbing a bank today, he went out thinking they were going to burglarize a cash machine. Suddenly he found himself in the middle of a bank robbery with hostages when he thought they were just going to steal some money. And they find themselves surrounded by the 7th largest standing army in the world, the NYPD. And this guy's got a genuine concern about getting out of here alive. But he's got a whole different set of concerns, and it's up to me to hear what he's actually saying.
Let us talk a while about it, okay? We gotta see if this is good.
You guys are talking about coming out?
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus, we gotta talk about some kind of agreement here. I mean, as long as you keep your word.
We've kept our word on everything so far. We've done everything we said we're going to do. We've kept the whole situation safe.
We got to talk about a vehicle or something so we can turn ourselves in with no...
Well, the only way that we can make sure that everybody is safe...
Because we know how once you get us, you're going to change your mind. But if you fuck me up, that's going to be a part of it.
There isn't going to be any problem. We showed you already how concerned we are to make sure that everybody, including you, stays safe.
You don't have to be nice to us, but at least keep your word, okay?
We have kept our word, and we will be nice. We'll treat you like gentlemen.
Okay. So...
Okay.
What's going to happen now?
After you've let all the hostages out, one at a time, nice and easy, everybody stays safe, everything keeps under control. We'll talk about who's coming out one at a time, and we'll make sure that nobody gets hurt. We're going to do it slow and easy, and everybody's going to be fine. After all the hostages are brought out, then we'll talk about bringing you out one at a time. We'll take it slow and easy. Everybody will stay safe. Everybody will be treated fairly.
Listen, I promise you. I'm going to talk to... I can't make that decision by myself.
You can make the decision for yourself, can't you?
Yes, I can.
You told me that you didn't even want to be there.
That's true.
And that you got caught up in this thing.
I thought I was going somewhere else between you and me.
All right, it wasn't your fault, was it?
No. I didn't know this is what was supposed to be happening.
You really regret that this happened, don't you?
I regret that it's what it is. I didn't know what it was,
Well,
not to this extent.
You wish that this hadn't happened.
I surely do.
Well, this is your chance to get yourself out.
Listen, how can I get out of this without... it's not like I'm squealing or anything, but the girls will tell you, you know what I'm saying? I treated them...
There'll be witnesses for you.
How can that be once people have gone through a terrifying experiment and nobody got hurt, you know?
That's the whole point. Nobody has gotten hurt.
All the money is still here.
You're exactly right. All the money is still there.
Even though it might be scattered a little bit.
Hey, that's just a mess that somebody can clean up, right?
Here's a guy begging to make a deal. Now, I'm trying to label him as much as I can as we're going on here. I'm not hitting the labels in the exact form, and this is still early enough in my career. I'm still a little yes addicted. You know, this is very frustrating, isn't it? But he doesn't know how to get out. I mean, it's a legitimate question. How do I get out of this? He wants to show that he hasn't hurt anybody.
I feel like ending it, but I ain't got the guts, you know? That's not the right thing to do.
You're right. The right thing to do is to resolve this so that everybody's safe.
You're making progress on me. You can tell the captains, you can tell the commissioner.
You want to come out first?
You can tell anybody that
Do you want to come out first?
I'd do it, though.
I can personally guarantee that you will be treated fairly and with dignity. You'll be safe, and you can come out first.
I'm saying, coming out and then facing, you know, if I come out, then that means that I got to get something out of the deal. You know, I know you don't want to hear that word.
I'll stand up for you.
But
you can count on me to stand up for you. When the time comes for you to come out, you need to walk out the front door very slowly with your hands up. As soon as you come out the door, you need to start moving to your right. You need to leave any weapons that you may have to stay inside. You got to come out unarmed.
So if I come out, how am I gonna get the rest of them out? I mean,
you know what? We'll worry about them one at a time. Right now, I'm worried about you. You gonna come out now?
Yeah, I want to end this shit.
Okay.
Boom. He just agreed to come out. So we go into a bit of a scramble at this point in time because, by and large, face-to-face surrenders are dangerous. When I got on the phone as a second negotiator, we'd already been stalemated for about 5 hours. Once I take another approach, some tactics given to me by my colleagues, downward inflecting voice, controlling the end in a positive way, and genuinely understanding the other side, we've got to surrender about 90 minutes later. These sorts of approaches, the willingness to make mistakes, but have an overall approach that you know is sound, gets you to the outcome as soon as possible. So ultimately, how does this all get resolved? I get the second bank robber out. He comes out, tells us everything that's going on inside the bank. Our control freak negotiator is still inside. He's determined not to do what we want, but also doesn't want to get in any more trouble. So our next negotiator comes on the phone, starts talking about getting him to surrender. Eventually, he starts releasing hostages. We finally get down to it's just him and one other hostage on the inside. And since he's determined to not give us what we want while we're trying to get the last hostage out, he volunteers to come out. This was long enough ago that by this point in time, he's had the opportunity to serve his time in jail. I have no idea what's happened to him. I do know that they found all the money in the walls and he didn't get any of it. And our bank robber was, in fact, Chris Watts. One of the key factors in the Chase Manhattan Bank robbery hostage taking was the use of pronouns by our first hostage taker. He wanted to use plural pronouns all the time. He was always talking about we, they, and them, us. He made it seem like he didn't have any power. That was intentional on his part because he was the decision maker and he didn't want to be backed into a corner. And if he were to admit that he had as much influence as he did, then we could try to force him into a deal, and he knew that. So he kept putting responsibility for what was going on they and them and the other guys and how dangerous they were. We see that a lot in the business world among shrewd, powerful negotiators. If somebody's at the negotiating table and they keep talking about their board and the rest of their team, and they even say they're not the decision maker, they're important. They're hiding that from us. Conversely, the person who's at the table and he's in love with singular pronouns, I, me, my, that's the only time they get to use those words. They don't get to use those words when they're back in the office because nobody listens to them. So if they're in love with singular pronouns, I, me, and my, they're not that influential on their side of the table. In this chapter, we're going to talk about body language and speech patterns. We're going to take a little bit different approach. We're going to talk about how a lie detector actually works, and you're going to learn how it's more important to get an accurate assessment of what somebody looks like when they're telling the truth as opposed to what they look like when they lie. This is all going to be governed by your ability to read the situation and your ability to shift your focus off of yourself and to actually pay attention to the other side, how they're reacting to you in the situation, how they're reacting to what you say. It's an information gathering process, and your first objective is to be a sponge and soak up as much information as possible. What is the 738-55 rule? All right, there's a lot of discussion around this, so let me put it in context. 7 plus 38 plus 55 equals 100. And it originally came up from a study from a UCLA professor back in the 1970s, I believe, at least the 1970s, on how much people liked the components of a communication. The three components of a communication are the content, the tonality, and the body language. The 7 represented how much they liked the content. The 38 represented how much they liked the tonality, and the 55% represented how much they liked the body language. What really matters, first of all, is the relative percentages. The tone of voice is 5 times as important as the words that are spoken. And it's a simple illustration is this. I could say, what you just said was a really smart observation. Now, you believe that I believe that. Or I could say, what you just said was a really smart observation. And the second way I use the exact same words, I change the meaning completely. To the first one is I agree, and the second one is I think you're an idiot. One great way for getting a sense of whether or not somebody's being genuine ties back to the 738-55 rule. Does their delivery and their body language line up with the content of the words that's being spoken? If one of those is out of line, which one am I going to expect to be the most reliable? I'm going to look hard at body language and tone of voice when it's out of line with the words, and then I'm going to use a label to identify the dynamic, and I could say something as clear as, I heard you say yes, but I also heard something in your tone of voice that made you hesitate. You simply just point some things out with some labels that are labeling dynamics that are in front of you. These are fair things to do. In many cases, you're going to be negotiating in a group setting. They're going to have people on the other side of the table that are listening, that are dialed in, especially if they're concealing, and they know they're concealing. And maybe they're concealing out of defensiveness. The people who are going to be ridiculously unguarded are going to be the people that you're not talking directly to. Everybody knows who you're talking to. They feel the attention on their primary point of contact. And the people that are not being spoken to are going to be insanely honest in their physical reactions. I've been in conference calls, video conference calls, where after the fact, my son has pointed out to me, let's say there's somebody on the other side of the table of 4 people that we're talking to. Eric is listening. We'll use the imaginary Eric, but Eric is not the person we're talking to. And afterwards, my son will say, did you see Eric? He looked like he was going to throw up when you asked their primary point of contact the question. The people that are off the point of focus are going to be ridiculously unguarded in their body language because they're not used to being paid attention to. They're used to having owl eyes on the person that's being spoken to. So you're going to get some really honest, some really accurate body language off the people off the primary point of attention. Well, so for a negotiator, it's a lot more important to know when somebody's telling the truth and when they're lying, because everybody has, if you tell the truth, you have one way you tell the truth. You may have a bunch of different ways that you lie. You might have 3 ways, you might have 50 ways. But if you tell the truth, you have one way you tell the truth. And I'm trying to gain a feel for what your baseline is for telling the truth. It's the same way a polygraph works. You go on a polygraph, a good polygrapher is going to ask you the control questions, the questions that are the truth. What day is it? Where are you? What's your name? What was your dog's first name? You know, any of the things that you tell the truth on, they're going to get a line on what you look like when you're telling the truth. And then when you lie, it doesn't matter how you lie. It just matters that you've come out of it. You know, you could look up and to the left. You could look down. You could grip your hands. You could, whatever you do. You didn't do it when you were telling the truth. That's an indicator that you've come out of your baseline. You're probably lying. You're at least thinking about lying. Each person's gut instinct is capable of picking up way more information than we can actually cognitively assess. So if your gut is telling you something's wrong, there's probably something that you picked up on the other side. They've come out of their truth-telling. So as a negotiator, I begin to engage with you in an emotionally intelligent way using hostage negotiation, tactical empathy, because I want you starting to feel comfortable. I want you to start showing me what you look like when you're telling the truth. When I've got a clear picture on that, all I need to know is that you've come out of it. Now I got a problem. Now the next issue, which negotiators know, is what do I do with that information? The Pinocchio effect. What is the Pinocchio effect? It's when someone uses more words than is necessary to give you an answer. If somebody's lying to you, they know they're lying, and they're worried about it. And consequently, they're going to need to work harder to convince you. So the more effort they go to convince you that they're telling the truth, the more likely it is that they're lying. They're adding more words. They're worried that you don't believe them. They have to add in more convincing. They might even say, why would I lie? Why would it be in my interest to not tell you the truth? The more effort, the more words they use to convince you that they're telling the truth, the more likely it is that they're lying. If you've come out of truth-telling, there's something you're uncomfortable with. If I sense you've come out of truth-telling, I can say, well, I heard you say you're okay with the deal, but it seems like something's bothering you. Seems like there's something here I missed. Seems like there's more here than meets the eye. Each one of those labels are designed to have the maximum chance of success of bringing you out of the lie. They're not accusatory. The tone of voice is curious. The tone of voice is collaborative. The tone of voice is interested. There's no guarantee of success, but what tactical empathy guarantees you is the best chance of success. And that's all I need to know. You've come out of truth-telling, there's a problem, you're defensive, you're concerned, you're scared, you're worried, you don't trust me with the truth. Any of those are all accurate labels to bring you out of lying and back into truth-telling. What does it tell you about yourself if somebody's lying to you? Well, first, it tells you that they're scared to tell you the truth. They perceive you as potentially being a threat. Now, that doesn't mean that you are a threat, and that doesn't mean that they should be afraid to tell you the truth. It tells you that their assessment of the situation is that they've got their guard up. Now, how you want to be guided by this and informed by this is revert to the late night FM DJ voice. Use a voice that the other side finds reassuring. Be predictable. Be non-judgmental. Be predictable in that you're not going to attack them. You're not going to try and corner them. You want to be steady. You want to be accountable. You want to show them that you're aware of their perspective and that you don't have a problem with it. You might not agree with it, but you don't necessarily have a problem with it. You continue to show them that you're worthy of them being unguarded, and they'll drop their guard. Who do you think has more control in a negotiation? The person doing the talking or the person doing the listening? And how important is control anyway versus the upper hand and creating the outcome that's best for you? In this chapter, we'll talk about the secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is to give the other side the illusion of control. How do you do that? And how is it best for you in creating the best possible outcome? Calibrated question is what we used to refer to as an open-ended question, and it's calibrated for effect, and we calibrate it to make the other side feel in charge. The secret to gaining the upper hand in a negotiation is giving the other side the illusion of control. And we're going to calibrate our questions mostly with the words what and how, because people love to be asked what to do. People love to be asked how to do something. Why, as a question, triggers defensiveness, universally. Why makes you feel accused? There's been some speculation that the reason that why triggers a universal defensive reaction is that every human being, when they were 2 years old, no matter how many people were around them, no matter where they grew up on the planet, no matter what culture they were in, when they were 2, they knocked something off a table and they broke it, and the nearest adult pointed at them and said, "Why did you do that?" And we had it drilled into our minds from about age 2 on that when somebody said why to us, they were accusing us of doing something wrong. Now, this is the interesting aspect because in business today, we're constantly told to find out their why, get their why. And so when we ask them why do they want something, it interferes with our relationship. It interferes with rapport, creates defensiveness. So how do we drive at some of the same information? We change our whys to whats. Instead of why do you need delivery in 3 weeks on the product? They're going to be worried about what's wrong with the fact that I need delivery. Change your why to a what, and you say, what makes it necessary to get it delivered in 3 weeks? It takes the sting of accusation off of it. It takes the defensiveness out of it. And it gets us back to a nice calibrated what question. You know, people like to be asked what so they can answer what. They feel in charge, they feel in control. We got to say it with deference. But again, we're giving the other side the illusion of control, and it's principally through the how and what questions. Forced empathy is when you force the other side to have empathy with you. I mean, the idea behind empathy, we're trying to trigger reciprocity. We're looking to demonstrate empathy because it's good for us, but we want empathy in return. And reciprocity may not always kick in. So we may have to say something at some point in time that forces the other side to take a hard look at our situation before they move forward. And our classic phrase to force empathy into a situation is simply to say to somebody, how am I supposed to do that? We were coaching a woman once who'd done a tremendous amount of business for a company that kept promising her follow-on business as a result of it. And she was very afraid of being denied the follow-on business. So they owed her a lot of money and they weren't paying, and they kept sending her work. I told her to say, how am I supposed to do that next time they send you an order for more work? And she said, oh my God, I can't say that, I can't say that. They'll tell me I have to do it, and then I'll really be in trouble. And I said, don't worry about that. The point is just, it's gonna have an impact on them. I actually needed to do an intervention with her to sort of talk her down off the ledge or even asking the question. So when they finally called her and asked her for more work, she said, how am I supposed to do that? And a person on the other side of the table said, you're right, you can't. I know we haven't been paying you. We've actually had some real internal problems, and the person that's responsible for paying you has changed. I will get in touch with that person. They'll reach out to you, and we'll settle up the bill before we move forward on anything else. Now, part of the problem on the other side was they were embarrassed that they were unorganized and they changed around, and they were a mess on the other side. And they were dealing with their own problems at the same time, so they were kind of ignoring how much difficulty that they were putting this woman in. Well, forced empathy. You make the other side take into account what you're really going through, and you also make them think about how's this going to move forward. And it's not going to move forward well if you keep cheating the other side. The question, how am I supposed to do that, is designed to shape the other side's thinking. Shape it around empathy. Shape it around thinking about us. Trigger slow, in-depth thinking. And in many cases, you probably want to combine your how and what questions to basically ask up to 3 questions. They're just worded differently. And it might be, how am I supposed to do that? What's going to happen if I do that? How do I overcome the challenges that I have here? Those are all basically asking exactly the same question in a different fashion. If you ask that question 3 different ways, then the person you're talking to will think about it from 3 different angles, and they'll give it more thought, and they'll give you a better answer, and they will appreciate the fact that you helped them think it through. Reciprocity is a natural human dynamic that exists in us because we're humans, and some people are very guarded about it. So we have to be careful about how we trigger it. If we ask, we tend to owe. People are often worried about asking us because they don't want to owe. So it's a common dynamic that people are more or less sensitive to at all times. You don't want to trigger reciprocity inadvertently. If I say to you, what's your name? That's an ask. I've begun to trigger, if I ask, I should be willing to give an exchange. And if I'm not willing to give an exchange, or if I'm not ready to give an exchange at this point in time, I don't want to trigger the reciprocity dynamic. Proof of life was one of those issues. How do we know that there's a deal to be had here? How do I know you have the hostage? We struggled with that for a really long time, and I worked kidnappings where we didn't ask proof of life because we knew the hostage was alive, and we didn't want to trigger reciprocity. And there was an instance where I was in the middle of a kidnapping. It ended badly. Hostages were killed by friendly fire after the fact in a botched rescue attempt. I was bothered for a long time by what had happened that I didn't understand. A couple of months afterwards, I'm listening to a kidnapping of a drug dealer's girlfriend in Pittsburgh. And who do you go to when somebody in your family's been kidnapped? Even if you're a drug dealer, you go to the FBI. Drug dealer went to the local FBI. I'm listening to the tapes of the drug dealer riding around in his car with the FBI hostage negotiator, and he's just negotiating on his own. And so he didn't know that his girlfriend was alive, and spontaneously, in the middle of the negotiation, on his own, he said to the other drug dealer, "Hey, dog, how do I know she's all right?" And it was this long silence on the other end of the line. And then the kidnapper said, "I'll put her on the phone." He said that with a tone of voice that indicated the power dynamic had completely shifted. He went from feeling like he was in charge to spontaneously collaborating. His tone of voice changed. And I knew that now the victim boyfriend had the upper hand, just from a simple how question. And he got the kidnapper to volunteer to put the hostage on the phone. That's got to be it. That was just a legitimate how question. Left the other side feeling completely in charge, but changed the power dynamic completely in the given moment. And the person who lost the upper hand in the negotiation had no idea they'd lost the upper hand. You put the creator of the problem, you put the burden of solving that problem on them. And since they don't feel burdened by it, they feel in control. It was their idea. They're going to spontaneously do what you want, and you never actually asked for it. You're not looking for proof of life, but you're really looking for proof of legitimacy, proof that you're in a good faith as opposed to a bad faith negotiation. And what are the natural questions? How are we going to move forward if we make this deal? How do I know that you're not just looking for free consulting? How have you worked with people like me in the past? How have you made this deal in the past? You know, there are a lot of legitimate questions that if you were sitting around with your colleagues in a bar at night discussing the deal of the day, one of your colleagues might say, like, look, how do you know these guys aren't playing you for a fool? How do you know this is a legitimate negotiation? How do you know they have the budget? You can ask them at the table because they're legitimate questions. That's why we never had a problem with any terrorist, any sociopath, any kidnapper, anywhere in the world when we said, how do we know our hostage is alive? they had to admit to themselves, it's a legitimate question. And they would at least think about it. It would at least stop and shape their thinking. So we use this today in our business negotiations to ask, how do we know that the people that are going to be affected by the deal on your side are good with this? How do we make sure the people that have to live with this deal like the way it's constructed? We start to get the deal breakers on the other side involved so that they're no longer deal breakers, they're deal collaborators. All right, Pam, what we're gonna do now is we're gonna do another negotiation exercise. This time I'm gonna be your dad, you're gonna be a 16-year-old girl, your boyfriend Ryan has invited you to go to the lake house with his family for the weekend. It's Labor Day weekend, and you previously got an invitation to go to the lake house for a party, and I found out that his parents weren't gonna be there, so I wouldn't let you go, and you wanna go and be with your boyfriend over the weekend at the lake.
Okay.
All right, and since you're a trained actor, then I would like you to do as much as you can to channel your inner 16-year-old girl and react as much as you think a 16-year-old girl would actually react.
Okay. Hey, Dad. Ryan's parents invited me to their lake house for the weekend, for Labor Day weekend.
Ryan?
Yeah, Ryan.
Ryan's parents?
Yeah, his parents. His parents are going to be there for the weekend.
For the weekend?
Uh-huh. Yeah, for Labor Day weekend.
For the whole weekend?
Uh-huh, with him and his parents.
For Labor Day weekend?
Yeah, for Labor Day weekend. They wanted to know if I could go.
So, you're gonna think that I'm the worst father that ever lived. You're gonna hate me. You're gonna tell me that I'm ruining your life. I wanna spend the weekend with you. Labor Day weekend is a big deal to me.
Dad, I mean, I just wanna go with them, okay? This is kind of a big deal that they asked me, okay, to spend the weekend on the lake. Like, we can spend the weekend together any time. And, you know, it's important that I go.
It's important that you go.
Yeah, it's important that I go.
What makes it important?
Because it's like, you know, a big step in Ryan and, you know.
A big step?
Yeah, because his parents, like, you know, are accepting me or whatever. They asked me to go. They're being nice. They like me.
They like you?
Yeah, they like me. And Ryan likes me, and so they want me to spend the weekend with them.
How am I supposed to go along with that?
I don't know what the big deal is. Yeah, so I go away for the weekend. It's not like we're staying in the same room or anything.
How do I know where you're gonna stay?
Because his parents are gonna be there.
They're gonna be there the whole time?
Yeah, his parents are gonna be there the whole time.
You're all gonna sit around in a living room together and stare at each other for the entire weekend?
I guess, or go on the lake, on the boat, or whatever.
Have you been there before?
No, because you wouldn't let me go before. Remember? They had a party there, and I couldn't go to the party.
Yeah, so it sounds like Ryan's parents don't actually keep that close track of him.
They do. They're going to be there this whole weekend.
They let him throw a party at the house over the weekend where they weren't even there.
Right. So they allowed him to do that.
So it sounds like they're really not around him all that much.
Well, they're going to be there this weekend.
And what makes this important again?
It's just important, Dad, because it shows that they asked me. They asked me to go. And don't you want me to have fun to go?
Sounds like it's important to you what Ryan's parents think of you.
Well, I guess.
So it's not important. You don't care what they think.
I do care what they think. I do care what they think. So it is important, okay? It's important what they think of me, okay? It's important what Ryan thinks of me, all right? And then it's important what you think of Ryan, because he's gonna think that you don't like him, and his parents are gonna think that you don't like him if you don't let me go.
And what makes this important?
It's just important, Dad, because, you know, I don't know. What if like Ryan's like, oh, that's weird. She can't go this weekend. Her dad won't let her go, you know? And then he's like, oh, maybe I'll get a different girlfriend, somebody whose dad lets her hang out with me. You know, that's important, you know?
Sounds like you really don't trust Ryan.
It's not that I don't trust him, you know? I trust him.
Sounds like he's not that dedicated to you.
I don't know, Dad, whatever. Maybe he is. I don't know. Of course he's dedicated. Okay? I just want to go.
So how does this affect your future?
Then it would be good because I would have fun and have a nice weekend. And then Ryan and I would be boyfriend and girlfriend for a long time.
So as long as you have fun and have a nice weekend, you don't have to go to the lake.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
So how does he really feel about you?
He loves me, Dad. We love each other.
How do you know?
Because he says it. He said it. And he's inviting me to go.
So that seems really important to you.
Yeah.
What is him inviting you to the lake for the weekend? How's that important? What does that mean?
It means that, like, I'm, you know, they're taking me as into their family, to be part of their family, that they're accepting me.
And so what's the next step after that?
I don't know, Dad, that whatever, that we're together.
Together?
That we're going out, that we're all the time, that we're in love, Dad. I don't know what's gonna happen, okay? I'm not saying we're gonna get married or anything.
So how much does he really care about you?
He cares about me a lot.
And you mean a lot to him?
I do.
But it sounds like you're worried about what he'll do if you're not there.
I'm not worried, okay? I'm not worried. I'm not worried if I'm not there, okay?
So it's not that big of a deal to not go?
It's a big deal to go.
So I'm gonna be a horrible person that ruined your whole life if I don't let you go.
I guess not. I don't know.
Well, I care about you, and I care about the decisions that you make and the decisions that you don't make. And I don't think it's a good idea for you to go.
Why not?
Well, as parents, these are the same people that let him throw a wild party at the lake over the weekend, and they weren't there at all. It doesn't sound to me like they watch him that closely. It doesn't sound like he feels particularly accountable to his parents.
So I'm like 16, Dad. I'm going to be an adult in like 2 years.
Yes, and you'll be able to make all those decisions for yourself in 2 years. And in the meantime, it's my job to protect you.
Fine.
All right, we'll stop.
So many flashbacks about it. But I felt like it's interesting because you were never like, no. You were like, I'm going to be a horrible person. You're going to think I'm terrible if I don't let you go. If I say no, if I don't let you go. But you weren't like, no, you can't go. You weren't like combative with me.
Right.
And
so it kept you from getting combative.
It kept me from getting combative, even though I wanted to be combative. But then to me too, I was like, oh, it's really making me rethink about Ryan, you know? Because when you're like, so you don't trust him then, so he doesn't care about you, he doesn't respect you, you know, you're afraid that if you're not there for 1 second. And then I was like, oh no, that is what I feel like, and that's wrong to feel like that. That's not what like the relationship should be like, you know, is what I was thinking.
Right, interesting.
Yeah, so you were making me feel that way. You were making me be like, oh, so you don't trust him? And I'm like, no, I do trust him. So you were just kind of being like, then why is it so important for you to go, you know?
And all I was really trying to do throughout the duration of it is I think it's a parent's job to teach their kids to think. And so all I was really trying to do was to get you to really think hard about all of this.
Right.
And how much it meant and what your assessment is of him. And I just really wanted you to think hard about it. And before I said anything for sure one way or another, I just wanted to make sure you were thinking all of it all the way through. And I wanted to do it in a way that didn't make you feel like it was forcing you to think about it. I want to say, now, wait a minute, think about this for 2 seconds.
Right.
But I wanted to get you to think about it without you feeling like I was making you think about it.
Right.
So that was really all I was after. Think all this through. Only you think it through, as opposed to me thinking it through for you.
Right.
And it's interesting that you then started to worry about what you really thought of it.
Yeah, and then I also was like, I was trying to bring up the thing of like, you didn't let me go before, so you should let me go now. And then you turned it around to be like, oh, so his parents weren't there before. And I was like, oh, no. Why did I mention that, you know? So I thought, it was interesting. Even though there were times where I was like frustrated, like as a teenager, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It shouldn't be that important. It doesn't matter.
All right. Very good. I've got a technique that I absolutely love, and I want you to come to love it as well. It's called the accusations audit. An accusations audit is taking a step back and taking an inventory, doing an audit of all the possible negatives, names, accusations, slanderous things that the other side might be thinking about me based on the circumstances or the environment or their own paranoia. All the things that, if I had the chance, I would say, I don't want you to feel. What happens when you do this is you start digging out all the negatives that the other side may be harboring based on past experiences, maybe based on past lives. Who knows? You know, it's the old phrase about the elephant in the room. First of all, the elephant in the room doesn't go away by pretending it's not there. The elephant in the room doesn't go away by you saying, there's not an elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is diminished and eventually goes away by you saying, hey, there's an elephant in the room. And then people go, yeah, that's not that bad. So conduct an inventory. Do an audit of all the possible negative names, negative feelings, slanderous accusations that the other side might have. Make a list and go after them early on and quickly, fearlessly. Unexpressed negative emotions never die. They fester like an infection and they become cancerous. And this is an approach to go after these and even get out in front of them and trigger the working collaborative relationship from the very beginning. So you can frame the accusations audit a couple of different ways. If you've been in the relationship for a while, just the straight label, you know, it seems like you're not getting all the information out of us that you want. Probably feels like we're holding back on you. Probably feels like we're wasting your time. Feels like that we're not being honest with you. At the very beginning, you can be a little more speculative, a little more tentative with it, a little more just recognizing what might probably be happening. So at the beginning, you might say, you're probably going to ask yourself why you're taking this meeting. Probably feels like that I might seem like everybody else that's in this line of work and there's no difference between me and anybody else. You may even think like that the people on your side of the table are going to think you're getting pushed around. You can be a little more speculative in those observations because you're conveying to the other side that you're being attentive and you're being speculative, but you're being careful about it in the entire time. And they're going to appreciate your approach. This gets back to being a straight shooter. You're telling the truth, you're calling things out, you're recognizing things, but you're taking responsibility for how the statements you make land. So is this tactic applicable to everyday negotiations? Well, it's only applicable when humans are involved. One of my favorite interactions to get a late checkout and the use of the accusations order. And I understand, I like to be concise. I like to go after that. I like to deactivate it as much as possible along the way. And I have literally done this when I've called them from my room and asked for a late checkout and just, I'm just honest, I need a late checkout. And they go, no, we can't give it to you. You got to check out at 11 or whatever it is. So I'll get up out of my room and I'll walk down to the front desk and I make it the same person that I had on the phone. Enough time has transpired from when I left my room to got down to the front desk. And I'll walk up to the hotel clerk and I'll say, I'm getting ready to make your day ridiculously difficult. And you can just watch stuff go through their brains. Now, a front desk hotel clerk, God knows what they face from, somebody comes out of a room, I'm getting ready to make your day ridiculously difficult. The stuff they've seen up to that point in time, what's going through their mind is, did you have diarrhea all over the room? Were you part of a satanic cult and you just sacrificed one of our laundry people in your room and are there pentagrams all over the wall? They've probably seen it all. And they're going to think horrible thoughts for just a moment, just the dynamic silence of a pause. And then you shut up until they look at you and give you permission to go on. And they give you permission to go on by saying, what is it? And you say, I need a late checkout. And they go, oh my God, okay. Sure, what do you need? 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? What do you need? And they give it to you. Now this works, I'd like to say every time. There may have been a time when this didn't work, but it works 999 times out of 1,000. It works enough that I go down and I use it and I get late checkouts all the time. How exhaustive should you be in your list of accusations that you're compiling? I'm here to tell you, if you don't feel like you're laying it on thick, you're not laying it on thick enough. We have coached people time after time and run people through exercises where we've had them make lists, and nearly every time they leave stuff out. It really takes a fearless and courageous brainstorming effect on your part to really go after everything. And it's rare that you're gonna overdo it. So be as forward-thinking as possible. And a great way to test it is, as you're laying out your accusations or audits, read the other side's reaction all along the way. If you got a list of 15 things and you've gotten through the first 3 and they say, oh, you're being too hard on yourself. You've done your job. Actually, where you want to get to is when the other side says, you're being too hard on yourself. Because when somebody says that, they have stepped to your side of the table. You have forced empathy into the situation. And that's exactly what your objective is. So here's what I'm asking you to do. I'm asking you to be willing to test drive it. Pick some low-stakes conversations where if they go bad on you, no harm, no foul. Doesn't matter what it is. You're not going to play a high-stakes negotiation with a skill that you haven't test-driven in a low-stakes conversation anyway. Nobody performs in a championship with something they've never tried before. They've done it in practice. So practice on your low-stakes skills. Try it out a few times. See what you think. All right, so join me in a little experiment. Your phone rings. You pick it up and the voice on the other end of the line says, have you got a few minutes to talk? What's your instant gut reaction? Is it, yes, thank God. I said yes, I feel so good to say yes. No, as a matter of fact, your gut reaction is, The first thing that goes through your mind is, who is this? You find out who it is. The next thing that goes through your mind is, how long is a few minutes? And then after that, the next thing that goes through your mind is, how do I get off the phone? All of that is triggered from the simple, have you got a few minutes to talk? It's amazing that anytime anybody asks us to say yes, we ask ourselves, what am I letting myself in for? This happens to us so much and all the time that we're always yes battered. So in this chapter, I'm going to teach you about the beauty of the word no. Not only is no not failure, but you're going to find out how valuable it is to get people to say no, and how much farther you can get, and how much more information you can get, and how much it'll actually enhance your relationship when you make people feel like not only is it okay to say no, but no is a really good answer. Yeah, yes is horrible. I mean, first of all, there's three kinds of yeses: commitment, confirmation, and counterfeit. My confirmation yes is if you've asked me a simple question where you're trying to simply confirm that something is true. My confirmation yes is going to be pretty concise. Like I might say, yeah. And sometimes I might even say, okay. The more concise and the more curt my tone of voice is, the more likely it is that it's a legitimate confirmation yes. But a commitment yes is an agreement. It's, I agree. I'll go along with it. I will do this. I have agreed that I will do this. That I'm good with what we're talking about and that I am in agreement with it. And a commitment yes is going to be fairly curt and concise as well. But it's really going to be driven by the context and what I've said leading up to that and how our conversation has gone. A counterfeit yes is the yes I'm going to give you when I'm starting to feel trapped by your questioning. I don't trust you. I want to find out how soon this is going to be over. Maybe I want to know more. So I'm going to give you the counterfeit yes because I've already decided that I don't trust you, and it's okay because I feel like you're trying to trap me. So you might say to me, does this deal look like something that could work for you? The counterfeit yes is typically not terribly succinct. It's not short. I'll say, yeah, or sure. Or if my real objective is to get you to go away, I might say yes to get you to go away. But typically a counterfeit yes is not simply yes. You know, yes, most of the time is maybe or a no in waiting or a rejection in waiting. So at any point in time that in my previous life, I might have sought a yes, I'll simply change that yes question to a no question to drive at the same thing, and I'm going to get the same kind of information. A no is so much more valuable than a yes. You know, a no to a properly phrased, no-oriented question is worth at least 5 yeses. People feel safe and protected when they say no. This is another one of these human nature laws of gravity. There is no way around that when you say no, that you don't feel safe and protected. You don't like hearing it, but it's different between when you hear it and when you say it. And when you begin to understand how valuable it is and how solid no is, I actually love hearing it because I will say something, instead of saying, do you agree with this? I'll say, do you disagree? Instead of saying, is this a good idea? I'll say, is it a ridiculous idea? When you say no, you feel safe and protected. You feel like you've made no commitment at all. So you're going to give me a lot more information. And the additional information after the no, or even the yes, if I'm silly enough to try to get it, the additional information is what's most important. How's this going to be implemented? What's this going to look like? What haven't we thought of? Since you feel safe and protected when you say no, you feel no fear about telling me about problems. If I say to you, does this look like something that would work for you? If you say yes to that, but you want to give me additional information, you're going to feel like every additional piece of information commits you before you're ready to commit. You're going to be reluctant to share problems with me. You're going to be reluctant to collaborate with me because you feel like everything that comes out of your mouth reduces your autonomy. And that's all bad for me. But if you say no, having said no, you feel there's no commitment afterwards, You can share a lot of information with me. You won't have second thoughts. You won't have commitment fears. And the information you share with me is going to be very accurate and give me a really clear picture of what's going on. If I say to you, does this look like something that might work for you? You're going to say no, but here are my issues. And you're much more likely to lay out what the issues really are because you're going to feel like you can share them with no commitment whatsoever. About 2 years ago, I get introduced to Robert Herjavec, Shark Tank Robert Herjavec. Great guy, very generous guy. And via the introduction, he invites me to lunch, and it was my favorite kind of lunch. He paid at a steakhouse, but a generous guy. I mean, and I got 90 minutes with him, which again, on the basis of an email introduction, is a fantastic thing. Now he's building out a sales team, and he's wondering if the Black Swan Group's negotiation approach, the negotiation that I teach, is good for his salespeople. My company happens to have a negotiation training session coming up in New York, and I offer him a free ticket. And to show, what a decent, generous guy is, his response is, how many can I buy? A lot of people, if you offer them one thing that's free, they want more free things. Again, he's saying, how many can we buy? So my company and his company, we're going back and forth on how many tickets they're going to buy. And we're not getting a clear commitment out of him as to how many people he's going to send. My people call me on the phone and they'll say, we're getting ready to sell out. And if Herjavec and his people don't buy now, they're not getting any. They're not even getting their free ticket. Because the tickets to our events are expensive. And my team is mad at me for giving away anything for free. They don't care who it is, even if it's a famous guy from TV. So at 5:03 in the afternoon, because I've just gotten a call from my director of operations saying, if the Herjavec group doesn't buy tickets now, then they're not getting any because we're going to sell out by tomorrow morning. And I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm getting a call from the East Coast. So we're 3 hours behind the time frame anyway. So 5:03 in the afternoon, I send Robert Herjavec a 2-line email. 5:03 on a Monday. Are you against committing to 3 tickets now? Is it a ridiculous idea for you to pay for the tickets before the business day starts in New York tomorrow? At 5:04, I get an email back from him that says, no, we'll make the commitment for 3 tickets now. No, we got no problem paying for them right now. My assistant will be in touch with you within the hour. Send her a link and we'll pay. I sent the link and they made the payment by 5:23. How often do you get that kind of decision-making from someone at any time of the day, let alone after 5 o'clock? What you're really trying to get is an authentic commitment. And even with that, yes is nothing without how. I mean, whatever amount of time you spend on yes, it's almost useless. Because if it's a confirmation yes or a counterfeit yes, your real issue is, do you have how? A confirmation yes without a how will die. So how do we transition into how? Remember, the key to negotiation is always using deference. So it's with a tone of voice, and if they haven't given you a way to proceed, then your first question is, how should we proceed? What are the next steps? How would you like to proceed? Use how or what to begin to pave your way into how you're going to proceed. And then think in advance a little bit, because there are always going to be implementation problems. So in some anticipation of that, you want to ask some how and what questions to deal with implementation problems in advance. Because if you haven't created a mechanism through what and how to deal with the problems, those problems are going to fester until they explode. You lay those safety valves in advance, you avoid explosions. Or you avoid, worse than an explosion, You avoid nothing where they don't call you, they don't tell you what's going on. You only find out about bad news indirectly. Put the safety valves of how do we know if we're on track and how are we going to deal with it if we're off track, and you'll take care of your implementation. All right, so in this negotiation scenario, we're peers. We're both on a local city council. You're a longtime public servant. You wanted to be in city council ever since you were a teenager. I, on the other hand, am some businessman who recently sold his business, made a lot of money, decided I want to give back to the community, got myself onto the city council. You, being a longtime public servant, believe in the importance of infrastructure, roads, bridges, infrastructure. The businessman is into education. I am into education. $50,000 has become available for an appropriation. It can't be split. And you and I have to talk about whether or not, how we're going to vote, whether or not we want it to go for your infrastructure projects or my education projects. Any questions?
No.
All right. So, Pam, we got a challenge in front of us. $50,000, a lot of money.
Right, we could use it.
Could do a lot of good.
Mm-hmm.
I know that I seem like some Johnny-come-lately do-gooder who doesn't know anything about government. I was out busy running around the private sector, probably ripping people off, making my millions. And after I sheared people and did all this stuff that they do in the private sector, and I cashed out, here I am trying to tell everybody else how to live their life. Seems pretty ridiculous, doesn't it?
Yeah, actually, yeah, it does.
And I show up late, and you've been dedicated to this your whole life, and I'm trying to tell you what to do, and I'm trying to tell you how to run the world. And I just got here. I'm an intruder. I'm an invader. You know, I don't know what the hell's going on, and I think I want to go run off with this money.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what do you think? How do we work our way through this?
Well, I think that, you know, the city needs to spend the $50,000 on infrastructure. Our roads are a disaster. If the bridges are coming down, I'm getting phone calls about how people's property values are going down.
So people are worried about the current state of affairs because the government hasn't been doing its job?
Right, yeah.
And now it's time to pick it up and for government to finally step up and do its job.
Right,
Sort of
yes.
throw a Band-Aid on it.
Well, I think, I wouldn't say Band-Aid, I would say to repair the roads, repair the bridges.
How does that build our future?
Well, you know, people's property values are going down. If we can get more people to come here, property values go up, property taxes go up, and then we can get more income. If property taxes go up, the roads are neglected. Okay?
So we're looking for a solution that actually sort of continues to reinvest upon itself, because you said it's important that we find a way to help bring property taxes up, bring in more income for the city.
Right.
And so we're trying to bring more value to the city, and we got to decide where that value is.
Right, yeah.
What's the value of human capital?
Well, there is no value on human capital.
Right? Well, jobs, people who make more money pay more taxes.
That's
Is that
true.
a ridiculous idea?
No, it's not a ridiculous idea.
So we have a tough call here. You know, where's the greatest return on investment? And without question, infrastructure is a problem. You spend $1 on infrastructure and $1 on a road, and it takes care of it till forever?
No, not forever. Roads, constant upkeep.
See, I think the overall health of the community is really important to you. You wouldn't have done this for this long if you didn't actually care about your community.
Yeah.
It's probably a very unappreciated position.
Well, I think so. Yeah, it is. You know, I sacrificed a lot for this town, but it's because, you know, I love it and I want to see change happen here. And I want this to be a great community.
But we got problems today that have got us concerned.
Well, I haven't gotten any phone calls about the school or education at all. I haven't received any complaints about that.
Right, so it's really, what's the squeaky wheel here? Again, I'm going to seem very selfish. I would offer to you that the best investment for our community is the investment in human capital and bringing in more people that will pay higher taxes to bring a year-over-year return on our investment. I'm sure that sounds very selfish.
Well, no, it doesn't sound selfish at all. I mean, I guess it does make sense. You know, if we have better education, then more people would want to live here.
But it sounds like you still have misgivings.
I do. I have a few misgivings about it. I don't know exactly how that money's going to be spent. At least when, you know, you say, I want to put this money into fixing the road, and then the road is fixed, and you know the money's been spent wisely.
Well, you know the money's gone to fix a problem that is going to recur.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So it's a tough call because we both got people that want to hold us accountable year after year. What's it going to look like in a year? What's it going to look like in 5 years? How do we want things to look in 5 years?
I mean, in 5 years, you would need to get the roads redone again.
The roads are still going to be a problem. The real question is, what's our capacity going to look like to pay for the roads in 5 years? And are we willing to pass that up?
No, I'm not willing to pass that up.
And we can establish a collaborative relationship so we can continue to work together to solve the community's problems, to keep them from recurring in the future. Make an investment in the future so that next year looks better, and the year after that, and the year after that. And we have more of a capacity to deal with the day-to-day problems. Sounds to me like you're not opposed to that.
I'm not opposed to that, no.
So can I ask, with your permission, we'll invest in the education.
Okay.
So throughout this, I know that I'm going to try to make a case for a different view on how good the money's going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a pretty good idea where I want to go, and I want you to feel the least amount of coercion possible.
Right.
So my question to you is, did it feel like a collaborative discussion?
Yeah, it felt like, well, at first I thought it was interesting because you were like disarming. You were like, I know you think I'm a jerk. You know, I'm some guy coming in here doing this, doing that. But I felt like I was softening up, you know, like I was like, because my whole goal was just in the beginning, like, I want to win. I don't care what it is. I want my thing and you can't have yours, you know? Mm-hmm. And so then, you know, as you kept talking, and I was like, well, no. And then I was like, well, I guess this is silly. I guess that does make more sense. And yeah, okay, I can see it. I don't know why you know, I felt like I did come around to it. And I was like, yeah, it does make more sense to put the money there.
All right, very good. Yeah, I wanted you to feel involved.
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you lost.
No, and I didn't feel like I lost, but I was just like, oh, that does make more sense. Okay, yeah.
All right, excellent. Exactly what I was hoping for. I refer to losing something, loss aversion, as bending reality. Fear of loss and what people lost completely distorts their perception so much that it effectively bends their reality. You have to take that into account, and you have to find out how they feel they're losing, because that's going to be the single dominating factor in their decision-making. What are they going to lose if they don't make the deal? What are they going to lose if they do make the deal? It's never rational, and it's always bent based on their distortion of reality. Now, any given situation can be offered as a gain or loss. For example, you're a company that's going to make them 23% more money. You can say, work with us, and you'll make 23% more money. There'll be a 23% gain. The return on your investment will be 23%. Or you can say, choose not to work with us. Stay where you are. Don't change anything. And it's going to cost you 23% every day. While you sleep, not working with us is going to cost you 23% day in and day out. Fear of loss is what keeps people up at night. Nobody loses sleep, nobody gets insomnia because life is good and they're making money and tomorrow is going to be more profitable than today was. They sleep like a baby over gains. Fear of loss is what keeps people up at night because you get a loss in your head and it burrows into your psyche and it eats at you and it keeps you awake. And that's why it's one of the dominating factors in human decision-making. All right, now I'm going to tell you about the F word, fair. The F-bomb. Fair comes up in nearly every single negotiation. As soon as you look for the word fair and aware of how much it comes up, rarely does it not come up. People use it to manipulate other people. People use it when they're backed into a corner. The concept of fairness is fundamental to what we are as human beings, and that's why it comes up all the time. A classic example is something called the ultimatum game. Let's say two people are walking down the street. $10 falls out of the sky. It's $10 in found money. They have the opportunity to split the $10. One of the two people gets to propose how it's going to be split. The second of the two people gets to only accept or reject. They get to throw out one number. The proposer can only propose a split one time. There's no back and forth. There's no debate. There's no convincing. There's no subsequent rounds of negotiation. This game has been played around the world. One of the things I love about this game is that it drives game theorists crazy. They hate it because people react as human beings. People say 5-5 is the only fair way to do it. And I say, all right, so you wouldn't take 3? You know, I might say to you, what about 2? What about 4? No, that's not fair. Well, how is 0 better than 3? You're saying, I feel disgusted if I'm asked to take 3. I should get 5. Well, if 3 makes you feel disgusted, how does 0 make you feel? But people will destroy deals if they feel they've been treated unfairly. Intentionally destroy deals and walk away with nothing. On the other hand, people are much more likely to make a deal if they feel the process was fair. And they might take a bad deal or a less than optimal deal if they feel they were treated fairly. So fairness is really the issue that makes or breaks deals. All right, here's the way a counterpart will try to use fair to their own advantage. They'll say, I've given you a fair offer. Or they might say, I just want what's fair. In either instance, they've accused you of being unfair in a very subtle way. If you don't take that deal, or if you don't make the deal that they want, you're being unfair. Your fairness as a human being has been called into question. It's a great way to manipulate you short term. And you will react because you don't want to be unfair. So it's going to have an effect on you if you don't see it coming. So how do you respond to that tactic when it's used on you? Say, I'm happy to be shown how I've been unfair. Show me the information. I'm open to learning. Let me see what it is. They're either not going to have it or they know they don't have it. So how do you use the F-bomb positively? How do I use it? At the beginning of a negotiation, I want you to say to the other side, it's my intention to treat you fairly. If at any point in time I've been unfair, let me know. We'll go back and address it and fix it. Be proactive. Put yourself in a position where they'll deal with the problem, because otherwise, if they feel they've been treated unfairly, it's going to explode on you. Here's how I would encourage you to think about deadlines when it comes to negotiations. Somebody setting a deadline is an attempt to kick some progress into gear. And if it's a real deadline, there's probably less time than they actually gave you anyway. But deadlines are designed to get progress started. Every once in a while, in extreme circumstances, a deadline is a hard deadline. Very rarely, of the thousands of businessmen that I have coached, businessmen and women that I have coached in negotiations, since I left the FBI 12 years ago, one person has told me one instance when the deadline was a hard deadline. That's thousands and thousands of instances. And in your career, maybe you can think of one time when it was hard. The rest of the time, it wasn't real. It was something put into the situation by one side in order to kick some progress into gear. And if people are making substantive progress on what they're trying to accomplish, deadlines go away. So anytime a deadline comes up, shift your thought from the deadline to how do we make progress to work together towards a goal. And the vast majority of the time, the deadlines will go away. Two of the techniques that we've covered already are great ways to respond to deadlines. First way is labels. Simply say, it seems like you're under a lot of pressure here. It seems like you're trying to get things done by a certain time. It seems like this is an involved process. It seems like the world's going to come to an end if we don't meet that deadline. You know, that's either an accurate label or a mislabel, but you're going to cause the kind of thinking that you need from the other side, and also it makes them think about how hard they feel the deadline really is anyway. If you say, seems like the world's going to come to an end. Well, it's not going to come to an end, is most likely the response, and then they're going to tell you exactly what's going on the other side. The other way to respond to deadlines is with calibrated questions, what and how questions. What happens if we don't get this done in time? How do we get back on track if we fall behind schedule? How do we pull victory from the ashes of defeat if we don't meet the deadline? Any one of those calibrated questions are designed to shape their thinking, which again, how do we pull victory from the ashes of defeat if we don't meet the deadline, begins to get them to look at success, and that's their overriding goal anyway. When you're feeling attacked, the things that you really want to say, the words that you can just taste how good they're going to feel when they cross your lips, are probably wrong. You know, we're giving into an aspect of our natural human nature that wants to get back, that wants to put somebody down, that wants to feel like we've gotten the last word in when the last word is a cheap shot. We're giving into that piece of ourselves that's 75% negative, that human nature aspect where we want to get in the last shot, where we're afraid to not have control, we're afraid to not have the last negative word. By the same reason that getting the last cheap shot in was bad, the last impression is a lasting impression. The last impression seeds the next interaction. When you begin to talk about it like that it seeds the next interaction, you begin to realize how you can really get the upper hand by making the last words positive. You sit down with somebody in a contentious negotiation, you want to open it positively, you might say, look, you know, we're here because we want to make a deal. We're here because long-term relationships matter to us. We're here because we want our partners to be profitable. Just take what you would have said at the beginning to try to open it positively. Take it and put it at the end. When you've gone through the contention, say, you know, we're here because we'd love to have a great long-term relationship. We'd love for our partners to prosper from doing business with us. Let us know how we can proceed. How do you want to proceed? But make the last point you made to be inarguably positive and collaborative, and the last impression will be the lasting impression, and it'll seed the next interaction in a very positive way. All right, so in reality, I shouldn't even be teaching a chapter on bargaining, because if you listen to everything else, you've negotiated great, and you're not going to need to bargain. The deal will have made itself. In those instances where you do need to get down to brass tacks bargaining, Here's some techniques. The Ackerman system is a bargaining model attributed to a gentleman named Mike Ackerman. I was taught this bargaining model when I was doing kidnapping negotiations with the FBI, and they laid out, basically, you have a target price that you want to come to. Once you've picked out your target price, you're going to come in at 65% of that price. You're going to plan on making 3 raises to get to the price that you wanted. And the first raise is going to be 20% raise, the next raise is going to be 10, the last raise is going to be 5. Each one of your raises are decreasing increments by half. And then when you get to the very last number, you make sure you throw out an odd number, and you also throw in some non-monetary object that you know the other side doesn't want, but it makes them feel like they've really tapped you out. They've taken every last dime. You know, they've fought you tooth and nail. They've felt the decreases in increments. They still feel like they're winning. You come in with the last number, it's an odd number. It seems like that you scratched for every penny. And consequently, they work so hard to get there that they want to cut the deal. They're not going to renege. All right, so I'm trying to buy a coffee table for $100. And that's what I want to pay. They're asking $150, they're asking $200. They might be asking $250. It doesn't matter. I'm going to see what their reaction is when I throw out the initial price. So I'm going to come in at 65% of where I want to end up. So I'm going to say, look, you know, I got a price. I'll give you the price, but you're not going to like it. I mean, it's going to be low. It's really going to be low. And I get a feeling that when I give you this price, it's going to make you really angry. And the last thing I want to do is offend you. So I'm scared to give you the price. Well, you're getting their permission. You know, you're giving them some emotional anchoring. What they're thinking, like, this guy wants a coffee table for nothing. What's he going to give me, $5 for the coffee table? They're going to imagine something that's worse than what you would ever throw out. So you finally give me permission to give you the price. And I say, no, it's going to make you angry. You know, I'm scared. You know, I'm afraid to give you this number. And they'll almost beg you to give them the number. And then very apologetically, you got to say, $65. Now, they're not going to be happy with that price, but they asked you for it. They're not going to get angry because you told them they were going to get angry, and that diffused it, and you were deferential the whole time. I mean, they feel powerful. You know, they feel bad for you. But after you throw your number, then your next move has got to be tactical empathy. It's got to be the application of empathy. It's got to be apology. You know, they're going to say, well, you know, that's not what I had in mind. You got to do better than that. I mean, that's ridiculous. If they're a seasoned negotiator, they're going to give you the flinch. They're going to go, oh my God, it's ridiculous. It's horrible. And that's where you got to apply empathy. Oh, you know, I'm so sorry. It's horrible. I can see that I've offended you, and you're asking a reasonable price, and I'm being ridiculous. And you just got to continue to hit them with versions of empathy, and you gauge their reaction. You know, you've got to push them every step of the way, because when you get to the number that you've settled at, you need them to execute. You need them to be happy with that number. So the next point is, you're not budging off your number till they come off their number. Whatever amount of money they come off of their number, then you got to be grateful. Oh, that was, thank you. That was generous. You got to enhance the positive emotions. They feel like they've given in. You don't want them to regret giving in. You tell them that you appreciate it, that they were generous, and congratulate them on you. Now, your next number is going to be $85. They're going to feel like that's still not where they want to be, but they're going to feel a sense of accomplishment that you've come from 65 to 85. And again, you got to apologize. I'd like to give you another number. I mean, I've worked really hard at this. It's been difficult for me to get to this. As a matter of fact, I got to go back and check my finances before I get this number. I got to check with the people. I'm not sure I can cover this. So, you've thrown out your $85. They're still fairly disappointed, but they feel like now they're hungry. They're making progress. They feel that the process with you is making progress. And as long as people are making progress, it enhances their ability to stay in the deal. Now your next move is at 95. Now they're gonna feel a sense of accomplishment, but they're gonna know that that last move that you made was smaller than the first one. Always increase by decreasing increments. Always. You gotta manage the raises. Your next raise at 95, now you go through the whole scenario again. You know, the whole dramatic scenario. The application of empathy, the recognition that they were generous, the recognition that you're probably making them angry. After 95, your last move is at the number that you're gonna give. The number's gotta be an odd number. Everybody likes odd numbers. It's gotta come out reluctantly. If you had planned on spending $100, then you really need to come in at $97.43. If you have the opportunity, ask them for a piece of paper and a pencil and start writing numbers down. It doesn't matter what you write down. Write down your birth date. Write down today's date. Write down how much you weigh. You know, make a show that you're working really hard. You're tapping the resources. But they're gonna feel like they worked really hard for it. They're gonna feel like they've tapped into your last dime. They're probably gonna try to take one more move at you to get you off of that number, and that's when you go like, I got a really nice jacket. Would you like my jacket? Would you like the shirt off my back? Effectively, that's what you're doing, you know, but you're playing into the human nature aspects here, which is a little bit of a drama play. I realize, but these are people with emotions on the other side. Even sociopaths have emotions. So whoever's on the other side, you need to make them feel a sense of accomplishment, that this was a victory, a hard-won victory. They got you there every step of the way. They felt the brakes coming on the situation when each move was less until finally that odd number came out there, and then the shirt off your back, whatever it is. And if they're gonna make the deal, they'll make it there because they worked so hard for it. A lot of people are told, go first and go high. I think that's a bad idea because it's foregoing the opportunity to gather information first. I'm gonna wanna know where you're coming from. When you throw a price out and how you throw it out is gonna give me a lot of information about you, and that's information that I want. I love information. Every bit of information I get in a negotiation makes me smarter every step of the way. So if you go first, I got information on you. You haven't gotten any information on me. If somebody's really pushing you to go first, it's also an opportunity to pivot the terms. You can say, all right, I'll be happy to give you a number. Let's set that aside for a few minutes and let's talk about what it's gonna take to make a great deal. I mean, what looks like a great deal to you? What else do you have to have in order to make any price that I give you a good price? It's always good to prepare some things beforehand so that you're not caught off guard in the moment trying to think of what those things might be. And when you start to prepare that list beforehand, realize that it's really a brainstorming list. It's to trigger some thoughts. You really want to engage in brainstorming with the other side because in nearly every circumstance, even in a one-off negotiation, there's going to be some stuff that they could throw in that you might not know that they have. And if you engage in a collaborative brainstorming session, you know, between the two of you, you may come up with some ideas, again, to make a great deal. Yeah, you can use this when you're buying a car. You can set the price off to the side for the moment because there's always going to be other inducements that they want to add in to get you to make that deal. You know, what kind of follow-up service do you want? What are they willing to throw in at this point in time to try to get that price? They're probably going to be a lot more flexible on the other terms, on the follow-up service. Free car when you come in for its routine maintenance. You know, do you get a rental car to drive around while you've got your car in their shop? You know, what are the other maintenance add-ons that they might be willing to throw in to make the deal? And that's actually a really good move because people can get so focused on price that they forget that it's going to be the terms that make the deal. The price will break the deal, but the deal is made on the terms. Well, setting a range is a great way to not exactly name price first also. You can do a range of what's going on in the market. You can do a range of what you might be willing to pay. Understand that whenever you throw out a range, The other side is gonna settle on the end that most favors them. Then I gotta compromise and meet you in the middle of that range. You throw out a range hoping they come in and pick the number in the middle because they're trying to be nice. That's not gonna happen. They're gonna pick the end on that range that favors them. You better be willing to accept that. If you come off of that, then they're gonna be able to accuse you of bad faith bargaining for good reason, because you gave the impression, and if you threw that number, that you'd take it. But a range is gonna be dictated by two things: what's going on in the market and what you can pay. What you can pay may not line up with what's going on in the market. And there's always a possibility that other terms still might make your number work. And that's why the brainstorming with your counterpart is extremely important, because there may be something really valuable that you could do that's not reflected in the market. You know, great collaboration that creates success for both sides in the future is always valuable. So understand what your ranges are, what the market ranges are, and then go out and try to make a great deal. An anchor is a price that you throw out that's quite some distance from where you expect to land. So if you want to pay $100 for something, I may throw out right off the bat that, I can pay $20. I'm going to throw something out that's quite some distance, gives me a lot of room to maneuver, makes you feel like you won when you get me to my actual price. All right, so you're going to get a lot of advice that you should anchor extreme. You should go high, you should go low. And people are going to tell you over and over again that's going to give you better deals. What it's really going to do is make a lot of deals go away. The terms make the deal. Make great deals, don't extreme anchor, and you're going to go a lot farther and have a lot more people doing business with you, and you will not drive deals away from the table. I'm more concerned with the emotional anchor, the emotional reaction to my price. If I go with a high price with no warning, the emotional reaction from you is going to be negative. Negative reactions leave a toxic residue that, by and large, long-term are bad for relationships. Now, on the other hand, I will characterize my number before I throw it out, because I want you to actually be relieved when I give you my number. So I'm going to say, look, my number's high. Don't expect anything other than that to be high. It's going to be higher than you expect, probably more than you plan to pay, maybe more than you have. Now, by the time I drop that number, you're not going to overreact to the number. It may still be more than you plan to pay, but you're not going to be mad about it. All right, Pam, in this exercise, you're going to be my employee. You're the director of business development for the Black Swan Group. You handle business development, and you're making about $120,000 a year, and you decided that you want to make more money. Okay, so walk in, sit down, open it up.
Hey, thanks for taking the time to meet with me.
You're welcome.
What I'm coming to do is to ask you for an increase in salary, and I really would like to change my title from Director of Business Development to a VP. I think it's kind of the natural progression.
How much of a raise would you like to get?
Well, right now, I'm making 120. I'd like to be at 160.
160, okay. So, I'll take a step back as a teacher. Most employers look at employees as selfish people.
Okay.
Because when they walk in the boss's office, you never come walking in the boss's office unless you want something for you. So I'm gonna know going in, if you made an appointment for me, you didn't come in here to make my life better. You came in here to ask me for something.
Right.
So how do I know that giving you a raise is gonna help me?
You don't.
You just think if you get an agreement on a price, everything else would be lovely. Right. Which is a normal reaction for most people, and that's how most people sink themselves in job negotiations. They don't walk into the boss and say, hey, how could I be more valuable to you? Because when you say, how could I be more valuable to you, suddenly that changes my perspective. You didn't come in here to get something for yourself. You actually came in here to make my life better. That's a game-changing moment initially. Just by asking that kind of a question or taking that kind of an approach,
right,
then it's immediately a different conversation. Immediately, you're no longer a selfish employee who came in there with her hand out. Both hands, you put one hand, you put two hands out.
Yeah.
And willing to have one hand full, you're gonna put two hands out because you've been told to ask for more than what you want, right?
Right.
Aim high is the big lie that's out there. Aim high. Now, how much do you know about my ability to pay you?
I don't.
You presume it's there.
Right.
But you don't know.
Right.
And you don't know how to make yourself more valuable.
Oh, right.
So how do you do that in a job negotiation? You got to come in, first of all, and find out, am I living up to expectations? How have I done? How do I negotiate my success for the future? Then you start talking about what that success is worth. But terms make the deal in any negotiation, especially in a job. You know in advance that a lot of employers might look at employees as selfish. Then in order to disarm that, you might say, look, I don't want you to think I'm selfish. But instead of denying it, you want to say, I'm going to have a conversation with you where I'm going to seem very selfish. That disarms that feeling from the very beginning. Also warns me that this is a serious conversation. Okay, Pam, so let's reverse roles. And I'll be the employee coming into your office, and you will be the owner of the company.
Okay, good.
All right. Pam, thanks for making time for me today.
Sure.
I got something that you are not going to want to hear.
Okay.
How can I be guaranteed to be involved in projects that are critical to the strategic future of this company?
Well, I think, if you want to take a leadership role on some other projects, we should look into that.
And forgive me, this is going to sound very selfish. I'm not looking for mundane projects.
Mm-hmm.
I want to get out up front on stuff that makes a difference on everybody's behalf.
I mean, I think that would be great. I'd love to hear, anything that you have prepared or any ideas that you have on how to get there.
I'd be happy to prepare some ideas. What are some of our critical objectives? What are the top three objectives for the coming year?
Well, we need growth. We need to bring in more accounts, as you know.
What type of accounts are we looking for? Because, some accounts are strategically more valuable than others.
Right. I'm thinking, more high-end kind of accounts.
All right, so I'm going to take a step back right now because, so not knowing the business, you don't know what kind of high-end accounts those are specifically.
Yeah, I don't want nickel and dime accounts.
But how does this conversation feel to you right now?
I don't even realize you're asking me for a raise.
Right, because I'm talking about our future.
Right.
Now, the compensation for that will come after we talk about what's valuable and how valuable it is.
Right.
And there will come a time when I'm going to ask for what my, quote, fair share, to use the F-bomb, I'm going to want my fair share of that.
Right.
Then what I'd offer to you, and feel free to reject it, is my current salary plus a percentage of the additional value that's brought in. And if no additional value is brought in, then there's no additional money. I would like to add in also, I'd like to put you in a position to hire somebody to fill my spot, because if you promote me, we need somebody to do my job.
Right.
So let's anticipate that so that everybody moves up at the same time. So is 25% of the increase a ridiculous amount?
Well, it's not ridiculous, 25%, but it is a large percentage, 25%. Or we could do maybe 10, 15%.
So the better job I do, the less you want me to get paid?
No, not the better job that you do. It's 15% that you weren't getting before.
Right, and what about the remainder? Where were we before? Where was the company before with the 75%?
With the 75%?
Is it there now?
The 75% is not there now. It's not 75% that we all get profit. You know, it has to go out to overhead. And with the added income that we're getting, there's also added expenses.
So it would be better if I didn't do this at all.
No, I'm not saying that. But you wouldn't be better off if you didn't do it. Because you wouldn't get that 15%. Does 15% seem ridiculous to you?
It does.
It does. It really does.
I had in mind probably, and I've done business in the past where we did 50-50 deals. So actually, you know, a 50-50 gain, 50% for you guys and 50% for me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're not taking all the responsibility that we are. I mean, 50-50 is, you know, I mean, that's unheard of.
Did you have this in mind before I came in the door?
Well, no, I wasn't thinking it, but I, you know, could have bandied about the idea.
Well, so now that you have the idea, you could hire somebody else to do this job.
I mean, I don't want you going anywhere, okay? I think this is a great idea. I do. And I think bringing in someone else to work under you that you train, you know, to help bring in more income, I think that's great. I think that's a great step.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe...
It sounds like 2 jobs that I'm willing to take on.
Right.
For the price of 1.
Well, I wouldn't say for the price of 1.
So we're better off if I don't take on these new additional responsibilities and we just leave this out. We'd be better off just not doing this.
Of course we wouldn't be better off. Okay, of course we wouldn't be better off. So I could maybe give you 20% on that new business brought in. 20%. I think that's reasonable. I think that's fair.
And if it's not fair?
Well, I think it is fair.
But, and so, respectfully, seems like you have reasons for saying it's fair.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, standard business practice. I think it's the standard, what's being paid right now. I don't think you're going to go out there and see more than 25%.
So if we could find an outside standard to set the criteria, you'd be happy to settle on that?
If to move the needle is the difference between 20% and 25%, then fine. It can be 25%. But you're going to take full responsibility for this, and you're going to train a new person.
I want to train a new person. I want to write a handbook for them to operate from so they can actually be brought up to speed faster than I was.
Well, that would be great. That would be great then. Okay, 25%.
So the tools that I was really using there was to get you in your head to think about the losses that would occur if we didn't do this. What's it going to cost us if we stay in the status quo? If we stay in the status quo and we don't go after this extra business.
Right. I was feeling lost when you were like, well, so then it wouldn't make sense. We're not going to make money. I shouldn't do it then. Or, you know, then I was like, oh, no, you should. It made me feel a loss for a thing that I hadn't even gotten yet.
Right. And to get anybody to change from the status quo has got to cost them.
I mean, I did feel it was fair at the end, and then it was funny because in the beginning you came to me and you were like, I want 25% and I'm going to hire a person. You know, I want you to hire a person to take over my job so that I get a promotion and I want this money. And then by the end, I was like, okay, I'll give you 25%, but you better train this person. You better to hire this person to work under you, even though that was your idea to begin with. That I was like saying, you have to do that. And I'm getting my money's worth. Like I took control of it, even though that's what you initially came in with.
You felt involved. You felt vested in the process.
Right.
Right. And it was as much your idea as it was mine at that point in time, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So shared ideas are the ones that get done. And you were open to it, and it was collaborative.
Yeah. Then it was collaborative. And then I didn't think about, I was like, this isn't as bad as you thought it was going to be.
All right. Very good. The origin of the black swan concept was from 16th century Europe, when all they had were white swans. And somebody along the line thought of, well, what would happen if there was a black swan? Well, it's impossible, you know. That would change everything. That would change the complexion of everything. And then not long after that, they discovered black swans in Australia. They discovered that black swans actually exist. And suddenly the impossible was possible. And it was a game-changing concept. And this has been resonated throughout the years and been picked up in other books, that the black swan is something that nobody expected would happen, but in hindsight, changed everything as soon as it was revealed. So this is what great negotiation is about, discovering the black swan, discovering the piece of information that nobody expected that would change all the outcomes. It's central to everything that we do, and that's why I named my company the Black Swan Group. If you're negotiating for a salary, you might not know the behind the scenes of the company, that the person that you're going to work for is going to leave in a year, or they're going to retire in a year. You don't know what opportunities are coming in conjunction with that job that the company's already forecasted and budgeted out. You don't know who's planning on moving on. You don't know all the things that are going on behind the scenes. All you know is they've offered you this job within these parameters. But they already know, have a very good idea of the dynamics that they hope to change in the company over the next year. Finding out those dynamics behind the scenes could either make it a wonderful place for you to work or a horrible place. And it has nothing to do with the job description at the moment. The things that they know that you don't know are the black swans. Also, what they don't know about you is you may really be committed to that company when they're just looking for someone that wants to be there for a year or two. They have strategic needs that they haven't imagined that they can share with you because they don't understand that you're the person that can fill those specific strategic needs. They have no idea what you really want out of life. What you really want out of life may be exactly what they need in that company. Since they haven't met you, they don't know that yet. This is an example of a black swan that you bring to the negotiation that they have no way of knowing in advance. So the idea is to start the communication, and for me to start getting the information flowing from you so that I can find out what those black swans are and I can change the outcome. Since I don't know what you're hiding and you don't know what I'm hiding, there's stuff in that overlap that we really don't know is there at all. You know, a long time ago, Donald Rumsfeld talked about the unknown unknowns. The real black swans are where the unknowns overlap, and there's some crazy stuff in there. You can't tell yourself, I understand the situation, I understand all about it. You can't tell yourself that. That's to close your mind in advance. And there isn't anybody anywhere that says a closed mind is an advantage. So open your mind and be curious. Be interested. Wonder about it. Don't be afraid of being surprised. Actually hope to provoke surprises. You should take the attitude that if I'm not surprised, I'm not doing my job. Because it's not possible to know everything. And as soon as you start opening yourself up to the possibilities, you start to open yourself up to better outcomes and better relationships. And long-term relationships where the other side is actually surprised at how good the deal was and how happy they were with it and how engaged they felt in the process, and consequently how much they look forward to dealing with you again. All these things begin to combine to make you a more successful negotiator. The Dwight the Tractor Man case is a great example of how the discovery of a black swan leads to a breakthrough in the case. Washington, D.C., St. Patrick's Day, just before the beginning of the Second Iraq War. D.C.'s kind of a touchy place at the time. You know, we're probably about a year-ish off of the D.C. sniper that, you know, two people that were shooting and murdering people over the D.C. metro area. So there's no shortage of reasons for people to be jumpy all over the place. And, you know, a poor tobacco farmer drives a tractor onto the National Mall, the park that's referred to as a mall that runs from basically the Capitol to the Lincoln Memorial in the middle of Washington, D.C. Drives it into the middle of a big pond that a lot of people don't even know it's there because it's off to the side of the reflecting pool, and claims that he's got 4 bombs and he scattered 4 bombs around the D.C. metro area. It's a great way to get people's attention when everybody's so jittery about terrorism and war and snipers and everything else. And we engage with Dwight Watson, who we find out after the fact his family's tobacco farm has been destroyed by the tobacco settlement and the restrictions on tobacco being farmed and how they're being sold, and it has just utterly destroyed his family's business. He's protested on the National Mall several years in a row with a legal permit, and nobody cared. You know, nobody cares. So he finally decides, I got to get somebody's attention. The best way to do it is to show up there and claim I got some bombs. The more we talk to Dwight, the more we find out about what he's after and really what he resonates with. And he talked openly a lot about his family farm. He talked openly a lot about his time in the military. But there was and his sense of duty. But there was much deeper spirituality to him. I mean, his religion was really important to him. But we only heard that in bits and pieces. We began to talk to him, and we realized that he wants to get the word out. He wants to have made his point, and he doesn't really know how to get out of this. Probably about 36 hours in, he starts talking to us about, well, when I was with the 82nd Airborne, if we parachuted behind enemy lines, we'd have to stay behind enemy lines for at least 72 hours, and then we could withdraw with dignity. He kind of throws an idea out at us that he could stay there for 72 hours, and then he could withdraw. The only problem with this is he's shown to be a fairly volatile person. He still claims to have 4 bombs. We don't know that he doesn't. We don't know that in a fit of rage, he might not set them off. We get to the point about 36 hours in where the decision has been made that if he makes a move to the Jeep that's on the back of the trailer that's in the pond with him, that's got to be where the bombs are. If he goes to the Jeep, there's an authorization to take him out with what's called an open-air assault, which is a sniper shot. You know, in law enforcement terms, an open-air assault is a sniper shooting somebody between the eyes. Nobody wants to do this. Even if we're authorized to do this, nobody wants to do this, especially with some poor guy whose family farm got crushed. So how do we get him out of there without him making a stupid move that causes his own death because he didn't know any better? That's the dilemma we're faced at about 36 to 48 hours in. We got to get him out of there before he gets himself killed. We began that negotiation knowing that, let's find out what's driving somebody first. Let's worry less about what they want and worry more about what's making them want it. I'm intentionally avoiding the word why here because we're very careful about the word why. So what's driving this guy? The last crucial discovery we made about Dwight was that one of our negotiators who was listening in, because we have a team that listens in, one of our negotiators heard him say something, realized that his religion was really the dominating factor in his thinking. The 82nd Airborne was okay. That mattered some, but his religion resonated with him a lot more. And about 48 hours in, we said to him, Dwight, you're gonna come out tomorrow morning, right? And he said, no. No, I'm not. Day after tomorrow. He wanted his 72 hours. But one of our negotiators had heard his religion, and she had suggested that we say to him that tomorrow is the dawn of the 3rd day, which is a reference to Christianity and Jesus. It gives him the opportunity to change his 72 hours to 3 days, to actually 48 hours, for him to be Christ-like, for it to appeal to something that's a much larger issue to him. So the negotiator gets coached up, and she says, but Dwight, tomorrow's the dawn of the 3rd day. And there's a long silence on the other end of the line, and he says, I'll come out tomorrow. And we had him out the following morning. So in this case, the black swan was Dwight's religion, something we had no idea about going into the case. We're never going to tease that out unless we engage in conversation with him and we pick it up in bits and pieces along the way. And then at the one crucial moment when we need him to change his mind, we need for him to violate the other rules and come out sooner, come out a full day sooner, and characterize it in a way that he can accept. That was the black swan in the Dwight Watson case. So here's the scenario. I'm going to be a bank robber, bad guy, bank robber trapped in a bank with hostages. You're going to be the hostage negotiator that talks me out. Now, you have 4 restrictions. There are 4 things you can't do in the negotiation. And I'll walk all the way through this. I'll summarize it. I'll give you a chance to ask questions. We won't dive in until you're ready.
Okay.
So there are 4 things that you can't do. You cannot give me weapons. You can't give me transportation. You can't give me drugs or alcohol. And there's no sort of hostage exchange allowed. You can't say offer to come in if I let people come out. Nobody can come in. People could only come out. When we get started, we'll simulate being over the phone. You'll say ring, ring. I'll answer, and that will start the negotiation. All right, so if you're ready, say ring, ring.
Ring, ring.
I need a car in 60 seconds or she dies.
Okay, let's just, I want to tell you what my name is. My name's Pam, and I'm here to help you get through this. What's your name?
I have no intention of telling you that, Pam. You have 55 seconds. Why would I tell you that?
Okay, look, I'm going to try and get you, what you need.
You're going to get me a car. Excellent. You've got 50 seconds to comply.
Okay, I just want to slow down and...
you can slow down all you want. You've got 45 seconds.
Okay, maybe I can get you some food in there.
No.
Everyone's...
I'm going to be out of here in 35 seconds. What do I need food for?
Right. So I want you to just take it easy. Just
I'm
relax.
taking it fine.
We're going to get through this
35
together.
seconds.
I want to help you.
I'm going to get out of here
this,
alone.
Okay, I'm not going to be able to get you that quickly. Okay?
So you can get me a car.
We can talk about that.
No, you said you couldn't get it that quickly.
Well, I think it's impossible to get it that quickly.
You want me to kill her now?
No, I don't want you to do that.
Yes or no on the car?
Look, if you kill her, there's no way you're going to get anything.
Yes or no?
Okay? There's nothing you're going to get.
30 seconds.
There's nothing that, listen to me, if you kill her, there's nothing that's going to help you right now. I want to help you, okay? I want to help you. I want to help you get through this, all right? Look.
It's not me you're helping, it's her.
I'm going to make sure no one comes in there, okay? That's what I want to make sure.
I already know nobody's coming in. I'm going to start throwing out bodies if they do.
Well,
You got 27 seconds left.
Look, I want to resolve this with you, okay?
Give me the car.
Look, I want to see what's going on today. What made you go in there today?
I needed money. What do you think I went into the bank for?
You needed money,
That's where money
okay?
is.
Well, money's better than killing people, right?
That's up to
Getting
you.
Money is better than letting you kill somebody.
You got 25 seconds.
Well, okay. Let's work on it.
Okay, is that a yes?
You're not going to get any...
Is that a yes? You said you'd work on it?
Look, yeah,
yes or no
I'm
on the
going
car?
to work on it for you.
What does that mean?
I'm going to try to get you one.
You're going to try?
I'm going to try to get you one.
I'm going to try not to kill her in 20 seconds, but who knows how good try gets you.
Look, I don't want you...
She does. You want her. Don't worry about me.
Yeah, I want her. No,
17
you're not...
seconds.
I promise you this isn't going to end well for you. If you
Oh,
kill
now
her.
you're threatening me. Okay, 15 seconds.
Look.
You think you're going to keep her alive by threatening me? Seriously?
Okay, I misspoke. Why don't you just tell me what you need the money for?
Why don't you just give me the car? You've got 15 seconds
Where are you going to
left.
go with the car?
I'm not telling you that.
Where do
That's
you want
silly.
to go?
Why would I tell you that?
You think if we give you a car, you're going to make it out of here safe?
Oh, she dies.
Oh, you're going to take her with you everywhere you go?
You want me to? I will. 12 seconds.
Look, you're not going to be able to get a car, okay?
You said not right now. How much time do you need?
We can get you something maybe
Tell me how much time.
in an hour.
Okay, in an hour she dies.
I want
Now
you to
you're
tell me how many
changing things.
people are in there.
You said you give me a car in an hour, and now you say you can't give me a car at all. Does that make you a liar?
I need some.
You're telling me I can't rely on anything you say.
Look, I need
seconds.
some guarantees from you that you're not
you
going
never
to
said
hurt
nothing about
anybody right
guarantees
now.
before.
That you're not going to hurt anybody
we'll
in the
stop
next
there.
7. That was a nightmare. That was awful. Why?
All right, so let's go back over because you did some stuff really well.
Okay.
And your ideas are good.
Uh-huh.
But you didn't really know how to implement the
Execute,
ideas.
yeah.
And then you got yourself trapped.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, to start off, you gave me your name. That was awesome.
Okay.
That was really good. Because just your first name to start off with, it helps me to understand there's a human being on the other side. Now, what you wanted to do after that is you wanted to get
your name.
No, you should let that go. My name's a precious commodity to me. If you try to get my name, we're now bargaining. Quid pro quo. Do you want to own me?
No.
Yeah. So you want to get in, you want to stay out of bargaining, you want to stay in negotiation.
Okay.
A lot of people have a tendency to really get into a lot of trouble and have it just go horrible at about 90 seconds. You're well past that. You asked me a great question. What do you need the money for? What are you doing here? What do you need the money for? You really stopped the clock entirely with that. That was a great move.
Okay, good.
And what question, what's the motivation? What's going on behind this? That's really where you want to get into a negotiation. That's negotiating. That's not bargaining. You're trying to find out what's going on with the other side. So let's reverse the roles.
Oh, no.
Do you want to be the bank robber?
Okay, sure.
You ready to pay me back?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to do it as good as you.
But just be me.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to call in and we're going to talk.
Okay.
Ring, ring.
You need to get all these cops out of here, okay? I can see them all. Get them out of here. I'm going to start shooting people. Is that what you want?
Sounds like you want to stay safe.
You want that on you?
Sounds like you want to stay safe.
Yeah, I want to stay safe. Get them out of here.
All right, that's going to be hard for me to do. In the meantime, how can I make sure that you stay safe?
Give me a car. Get me something to get me out of here, okay? I want a bus, and I'm going to take all these people with me.
Sounds like you want to make sure you live.
Yeah, I want to make sure I live. I don't care about these people. I don't care. I just want to get out of here.
All right, sounds like you want to see a life beyond this.
Yeah. Get me out of here.
What's this all about?
I'm trying to get out of here alive. I don't want to kill these people, but I'll do it. I'll do it.
I know this isn't what you had in mind for today. How'd this get started? How'd you get here?
Look, I made a mistake, okay? I made a mistake. You need to help me get out of here, okay?
Sounds like you regret all this.
Yeah. Yeah. I regret it.
How'd you get here? How'd this start?
Just get me a car. Get me out of here. I'm still seeing cops on the street.
My job is to make sure nothing happens to you.
Well, tell these cops to back off then.
All right, that's gonna be hard, but I can absolutely guarantee you is nobody's gonna make any threatening gestures towards you.
Well, I'm feeling threatened right now with all these cops.
All right, well, we're trying to keep everybody away from the bank also so this doesn't get out of hand.
Well, get me out of here. I need a car to get out of here.
They're out there to make sure that people don't come running in on you. Do you want that?
No, I don't want that. I don't want to kill these people, but I'll do it too.
Sound like you mean it.
Yeah, I mean it.
How'd we get here today? How'd this start? What's this all about?
I gotta get...
Look. How'd you find yourself in this position?
Look, things didn't go the way that I wanted them to go, okay? And now I need to get out of here, all right? I need your help. Are you gonna help me?
I'm here to absolutely do everything I possibly can to make sure you don't get hurt. Things didn't go well? This isn't a life you had in mind.
Yeah, but here I am.
How do I get you out of there safely?
You get me a car and guarantee that no one's gonna shoot at me on the way out of here. I gotta get out of here, okay?
You want to make sure you survive this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure nothing bad happens to you in the bank.
Okay. You get me out of here.
I'm working on getting you out of there. But I want to make sure it doesn't get any worse either.
Well, I could send out somebody.
That's a great idea. Because that's the first step towards making sure this doesn't get any worse. Who are you going to send out?
Well, I'll send out one of the tellers.
Okay. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's a really smart move. That's a way for you to basically stay in charge here.
Okay, I'll send out one of the tellers then.
All right. Send the teller out. And next thing I know, you're offering to send a bank teller out.
I know. You just were asking me like, well, what could I do? What could we do? I wanted to be angry and I wanted to be frantic, but you kept talking so slow that it kept slowing me down.
Right.
And I wanted to be threatening to you, but you just kept being like caring to me.
What I wanted to do in that, on my end of that, when I was a negotiator, was make you feel that I was there to collaborate with you any way I possibly could without really rejecting your ideas or making you feel rejected.
Yeah, that's what it felt like.
All right. I'm happy to hear it.
Yeah, I don't know. So I didn't think, I didn't feel foolish. I felt like you were there to help. Yeah.
I hope my legacy as a teacher of negotiation is somebody that is remembered just who helped a lot of people have smoother lives, have more enjoyable life, get more out of life, whatever it is that they wanted to do. Like maybe they just want to go surfing all the time. It doesn't matter. It helped them have the courage to go ahead and navigate that and go out and do it and live a fantastic life. Look back on our life and have it be an amazing story. One of the reasons I love teaching people negotiation, it's because I hate bullies. And this gives people power in the face of a bully. Why do I hate bullies so much? You know, I searched my mind for that a lot. I got a really bad reaction to bullies. I mean, I want to go after them. I think it was, I look back on it, when I was about 9, there was a neighborhood bully that scared the hell out of me. Scared the hell out of me a couple times. Caught me by my house, scared me to death. I can remember it being the most scared I ever was in my life. Caught me at the local town pool a few days again after that. Scared the hell out of me. The first time he caught me, it was, we were playing a game. We're all these kids, we were playing a game. And he made up this story about how that somehow I'd broken the law. And he stopped me and he grabbed my bike and he held on to me and explained to me how I was going to be taken to jail for breaking a law and that I was going to be executed and I would be killed. And it terrified me. And then at the time that he was doing that, the way we used to be signaled by my mom that it was time to come home, I had a stay-at-home mom, and it was dinner time and we were in the neighborhood. She had a whistle that she blew, and she blew the whistle and we knew it was time to come home. And she blew the whistle and he wouldn't let me go. And I had never, ever not been able to get back. And that was the most afraid I ever was. Why did it make me so emotional to go back to that place? I don't know, I haven't, I think, yeah, protecting people has always mattered. It always mattered to me that I would have the opportunity to protect people, to save people. To protect and serve part of law enforcement always meant something to me. I just wanted to somehow the opportunity to get the bad guys has always meant a lot to me.
You already know that you trust me. You can tell that I'm being straight with you. Why don't you meet me outside? You gonna come out now?
Yeah, I want to end this shit.
Okay.